Chapter 741. Some are fighting, some are chatting. Take my halberd. The initial emperor's veins bulged as his blood surged to his head. His muscles swelled, making him appear larger than ever before. The initial emperor was stimulating his body's potential, with 36,000 pores relaxed and standing erect, granting him unparalleled strength capable of lifting heaven and earth. The two respected god-hidden jointly fought the initial emperor. The starry sky wept blood, filling with both emperor's blood and heavenly blood. The emperor's blood and heavenly blood, incompatible as water and fire, collided, sparking dazzling light and heat. The heat waves layered continuously, even melting the space and exposing the void. The battle was fierce, with both emperor and heaven bleeding, leaving damaged traces. These damaged traces hurt even immortals. Merely looking at them could cause one's eyes to bleed. The immortals watched in horror as the two heavenly paths crossed the sky. It was unprecedented, symbolizing an unparalleled momentum. Under such circumstances, the initial emperor was still formidable. Much to the immortals' relief, the initial emperor was at a disadvantage and suffered heavier injuries. Did the former human emperor also make you guys sell combs to a monk? How did you solve the problem? Zhang Li sipped tea while discussing the experiences during the human emperor candidacy period with Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin. Zhang Li's and Bai Hongtu's method of fulfilling the assignment was to tell the old Buddha that the former human emperor had given him the comb for combing his leg hair. The irritated old Buddha broke the comb on the spot. Once the comb was broken, they had to descend. The world of the initial emperor offered alternative ways to complete the mission. Oh, so you and initial emperor temporarily became monks, sold the combs to each other, helped each other, and completed the mission. Zhang Li thought it to be an excellent plan. Who came up with this idea? Yu Yin had wanted to ask this question for a long time. The initial emperor. Chaotic sky. The initial emperor wielded his halberd with strategic deployment. His moves were brilliant, dazzling to behold. The sky desolate halberd was indestructible, and the initial emperor's strength was boundless. Their combined force was capable of shattering all laws, making them the perfect team. Primordial. Two respected god-hidden's bodies emitted a glowing white energy containing inconceivable divine power. This was primordial chi, the first essence between heaven and earth, the ancestor of pre-heaven, and the foundation of all things. Many archaic and untraceable species left their marks on the primordial chi. Moreover, the primordial chi they held was stronger than the original first ones. Every creature born carries pre-heaven essence prior to their birth. When the creature is born, the exhaled breath and released cries contain the pre-heaven essence. From then on, they transition from pre-heaven to post-heaven and have no more connections to pre-heaven. Every time a creature is born, the exhaled pre-heaven essence merges with primordial chi. Through the long river of time, primordial chi has evolved from just being the first essence in existence. It has come to symbolize life itself, representing birth. The respected god-hidden used primordial chi as their weapon. The pre-heaven energy resonated with the terrain, the ancient seals overlapped each other, performing an unprecedented ensemble. The crowing golden crow, the moon-eating jade rabbit, the collapse of Mount Buzhou, the flooding of the 3,000 weak waters were all significant events of the old epic that influenced the course of time. All these phenomena passed by in a flash, all returning to the primordial chi. The primordial chi seemed light and floaty, yet it was as heavy as the immortal realm and as thick as history. Striking the initial emperor, it left bloody scars. The battle raged on, leaving the initial emperor covered in wounds. The initial emperor swung his halberd to dissipate the annoyance of the purple chi while the two respected god-hidden responded with their power. The sky desolate halberd and the primordial chi collided, causing the initial emperor to be blasted back. His arms trembled uncontrollably, and his sea of consciousness was in turmoil. In a match of pure strength, he was no match for the combined efforts of the two celestial beings. Severely wounded and pale, his eyes shone with undiminished determination. He spat out a mouthful of blood, stepping into the void. Fight again. So, I was so clever to invent the spirit plant formation, which can put together the power of Jojo and fight against the heavenly immortal. Bai Hongtu admired the ingenuity of his other self after hearing Zhang Li mention the spirit plant formation. No extensive description from Zhang Li was needed. Just by hearing the words, spirit plant formation, he already understood the general idea. All he lacked was a concept. Do you know Sword Dao? Bai Hongtu asked curiously. I only know one heart sword. So is Zhang Li. Let me tell you, when I was in the sword tomb, I noticed that our Majesty's talent in Sword Dao was quite poor, but he always denied it. During our duel, I deliberately asked him why he didn't draw his sword. His Majesty feigned indifference and said that anyone who had seen him draw his sword had died. In front of Zhongli, Bai Hongtu was growing more open, daring to speak his mind to Zhongli. Do you know the formation and talismans? Yu Yin stared intently at Zhongli. No, same as the initial emperor. Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin took turns to ask Zhongli what he was and wasn't capable of, and eventually found that the skills that Zhongli and the initial emperor had and did not have overlapped completely. The fairy of red dust was cracking melon seeds on the side, listening to the three men's conversation. Longevity Immortal Wind gently stroked his beard from time to time, occasionally telling a few stories from the initial emperor's past. It was very lively. The entire JoJo Immortal Realm kept their eyes glued to the battle between the initial emperor and the two respected god hidden, their hearts hanging in suspense. They did not know which side would win and didn't dare to take a breath, fearing that a single breath might determine the outcome. Only the 5 people on Zhongli's side, sitting around the stone table, discussing the initial emperor's affairs, and eating fruits. Next to them, a stream murmured. They're extremely pleased with themselves, which was entirely out of step with the rest of the world's atmosphere. The initial emperor used Emperor's Talisman and Sky Desolate Halberd as weapons. The divine weapons were extraordinary, with various Dao methods and divine skills coming one after the other. The Dao methods created on the spot were not a few either. Anyone creating a Dao method usually takes an extended period and repeated experiments. Still, the initial emperor was able to fathom the Dao methods in the midst of battle, replacing the old with the new, defeating the enemy, a situation that was rarely seen in the world. His talent for battle was astonishing, he was simply born for battle. The two respected god hidden were even stronger than the initial emperor. They controlled the 9 major rules, fighting to their best ability, seizing the initial emperor's weaknesses, victorious over his onslaught. He is stronger than before. The respected god hidden felt somewhat fearful. Fortunately, they acted now. This creature's growth rate was astonishing, coupled with Taichu's legacy as a weapon, it was like adding wings to a tiger. In a one-on-one fight, he could be considered the first in the world. If no other heavenly Dao intervened and assisted, defeating him alone would be impossible. The stronger, the better. Once we control him, we will go to other worlds. Which world's heavenly Dao can stop the 3 of us from attacking? The 390th heavenly Dao was pleased. The stronger the initial emperor, the more beneficial for them. It was only after fighting with the initial emperor that he truly understood why the 1320th heavenly Dao showed such an expression when talking about the initial emperor. The initial emperor Zhongli and the immortal emperor Zhongli, that he had fostered, were not on the same level at all. Delay will cause changes. Subdue him. The primordial chi swished, transformed into 4 chains, entwining the initial emperor's 4 limbs, preventing him from moving. The more forcefully the initial emperor struggled, the tighter the primordial lock chain was bound, so tight that one could hear the creaking sound of the friction of the bones. Zhongli finished his apple, placed the apple core upright on the stone table, and wiped his mouth. It's my turn. He leapt into action. Chapter 742. Show me your ultimate move. Still think you can take 2 on 1? Zhongli teased the primordial emperor. Zhongli was well aware of the primordial emperor's prowess. He was unmatched in single combat but still incapable of defeating 2 heavenly Daos. Who was that? The 2 respected god hidden, having the primordial emperor under control and confident of their impending victory, were taken aback by the sight of Zhongli's silhouette. The man had appeared without a sound, unnoticed by anyone. This seemed impossible. As heavenly Daos, how could someone possibly escape their sight? Zhongli turned with a smirk. It's Zhongli, too. ... Boom. Zhongli's appearance generated quite the stir. 2 heavenly Daos already had everyone in awe, and now there are 2 Zhonglis. Atop Mount Sumeru, Daozu, through Wu Ji's eyes, watched Zhongli ascend into the sky and smiled faintly. The heavenly Dao is in for some bad luck. Guest from the parallel world. Like facing a strong enemy, the 2 respected god hidden were cautious. One primordial emperor was already a tough opponent, and now there was another. Fortunately, the primordial emperor was restrained by the primordial lock chain and could not escape. They planned to seize the opportunity to subdue the new Zhongli. Let's test his abilities first. The 2 respected god hidden cautiously probed. Using the laws of space, they trapped Zhongli in one spatial box after another, each box continuously pressing in with the intent of crushing Zhongli inside. Be reminded that one such spatial box was as tough as a stacked world barrier. The primordial emperor had suffered greatly under this move. Zhongli flexed his neck and flew right up to the 2 respected god hidden, box and all. With 2 punches, several spatial boxes were pierced through. The force did not diminish and landed squarely on their faces. Their heads were bluntly knocked off. Fortunately, such injuries weren't fatal, their heads grew back. But their expressions changed from caution to terror. One blow, just one blow was this fearsome, surpassing the primordial emperor. What was going on? Wasn't the primordial emperor supposed to be the strongest among all Zhonglis? Who was this man? They exchanged a glance and reached a consensus. They must commit all their powers to taking down Zhongli. Huff! Zhongli charged, delivering another punch through their chests. Their divine blood sprayed out. Getting distracted in the middle of a fight. The two respected God-hidden tried to counterattack, but each time, Zhongli interrupted them, resulting in severe injuries. You huff if you dare huff, give us a chance huff to attack. Their words were broken, with every few words interrupted by a punch, a palm, or a kick from Zhongli. Unlike the primordial emperor's previous world-shaking battle against the heavenly Tao, which had affected the immortal realm and shook it, Zhongli's way of fighting was quite ordinary. There was no force to his punches and kicks, they seemed normal, powerless. It didn't even cause a ripple in the immortal realm, let alone a wave. Only the God-hidden knew how terrifying Zhongli was. His moves were ordinary as Zhongli was far too powerful, far too frightening. He could handle them with just ordinary punches and kicks. He didn't need any special moves. This couldn't even be called a battle. It was more like an adult bullying a child. It was unfair, with the children being unable to fight back. And the world fell silent. The immortal realm was immediately thrown into chaos. Not to mention the immortal realm, even the 9 provinces couldn't believe what they were seeing, thinking it was an illusion. These were the heavenly Tao after all. Cultivators strive to become immortals and immortals strive to follow the Tao, the end of the cultivation path. How could they be this vulnerable? The primordial emperor had fought against 2, even in defeat, there was still glory, this was somewhat reasonable. But Zhongli was exaggerated, so exaggerated that it felt unreal even after witnessing it. Bai Hongtu gulped. Zhongli had mentioned that his Bai Hongtu counterpart was constantly challenging Zhongli in his world. The Bai Hongtu over there must either have no other organs in his body or was all guts. Don't you want to see our ultimate moves at all? Pushing through the pain of their severe injuries, the respected God-hidden angrily roared out those words, only to be greeted yet again by Zhongli's punch, along with his reply. Nope, I'm not a judge, why would I care to see your ultimate moves? The respected God-hidden felt despaired. According to normal circumstances, shouldn't the opponent of their such great power have enough confidence to allow them to utilize their ultimate moves? You forced us to huff. The two respected God-hidden still wanted to turn their despair into energy, to make a desperate last stand, but Zhongli did not even give them the opportunity. In front of Zhongli, they didn't even have the chance to make a move. Primer. I am done playing. Zhongli punched a few more times, losing interest, and performed Tai Seal. The Tai Seal embodies the variations of Tao. Thousands of laws return to one, emanating countless ionic lights, forming into a seal. Before the Tai Seal, the two respected God-hidden seemed to lose their identity as the heavenly Tao, becoming ordinary men. They were assailed by a mountainous, roaring pressure, unable to even open their eyes. Indeed, under the Tai Seal, their ability to regenerate was stripped away. Once injured, they could not recover, and their powers were restrained. They could not activate the slightest bit of power without Zhongli's permission. Mixed Yuan immortal and heavenly Tao are existences that can recover thousands of times. Killing them required quite effort, hence the Tai Seal. Zhongli wanted to gather some information also, to spare their lives, he didn't use the full power of the Tai Seal. Thud, the two respected God-hidden fell to the ground, causing a cloud of dust to rise. At this moment, they thought of the heavenly Tao number 2400, about whom no news had come. Panic and worry enveloped them. Could it be that the lack of words from heavenly Tao number 2400 was because he had been killed by this man? And they didn't even have a chance to ask for help. How terrifying was this opponent? Wait, you can't kill us. If we die, all 10,000 realms will be destroyed. You mean the destruction rule, right? Heard it already, don't think I don't know about the second method. Tell me something else. Zhongli picked at his ears. Such as, how did this heavenly Tao manage to cross over? Zhongli smirkly asked heavenly Tao number 390. The primordial emperor broke free from the primordial lock chain and walked over. He had clearly seen Zhongli's fight just now. As expected, the gap between him and Zhongli was vast. Heavenly Tao number 390 met Zhongli's gaze. He was more curious about how Zhongli had come over. During their stare-down, Heavenly Tao number 390 admitted defeat, lowering his head dejectedly. When it was clear that all is lost, there was no point in resisting anymore. He honestly told Zhongli the truth. About how to come to other parallel worlds, about idol Zhongli, about how Heavenly Tao number 809 wanted to become the only Heavenly Tao. I can't believe such an incident happened. Zhongli was surprised. He didn't expect that idol Zhongli could be so useful. The primordial emperor snorted coldly, useless, he can't even beat the Heavenly Tao and is making things worse. He is being controlled. Putting that aside, among all the Heavenly Taos, is there not a single one who wants to restore the world? Does everyone want to reshape the world? The two respected God hid inside. They had seen through all mortal affairs and were utterly disappointed with reality. People are selfish. The world is a survival of the fittest place. What's the point of keeping such a world? Zhongli had a different opinion. There is still hope. That said, both sides went silent, not wanting to continue the conversation. Zhongli sighed. Different paths, different pursuits. But you two were once fair and selfless Heavenly Taos. It's best to end it yourselves. As the Heavenly Tao crumbled, the world was left without a Heavenly Tao. Chapter 743, Delegation of Power. Zhongli was like a pawn. Wherever he was, the balance of victory shifted in that direction. If Zhongli had not been there, it was beyond doubt that the final outcome would have been of the first emperor being controlled by two Heavenly Taos. The arrival of Zhongli completely overturned the outcome, be it the immortal realm or the Heavenly Tao, they were no issues in front of him. After the first emperor learned that envoy Duyi had been killed long ago, he began a bloody massacre in the immortal realm to vent his anger. Heavenly immortals and golden immortals were like mortals under the halberd of the first emperor, incapable of resisting. If any immortals resisted, their death was a little more dignified. However, could the immortals endure the brutal means of the first emperor? Seeing their companions suffer a fate worse than death, the other immortals could only yield to their fate, finding a swift death as a relief. Bloody was the sky desolate halberd, stained with immortal blood, it could be deemed the most ominous weapon throughout history. No weapon has claimed as many immortal lives as the sky desolate halberd. With the disappearance of the Heavenly Tao, deceased immortals would go to the underworld. Zhongli could imagine the reaction of the Queen of the Underworld, who was currently enjoying a leisurely day in the underworld, upon seeing a massive influx of immortal souls. Despite being numerous, heavenly immortals and golden immortals were all spirits, naturally suppressed by the Queen of the Underworld who governs the rules of life and death, and could not stir up trouble. Zhongli revealed to the Buddha and the primordial ancestor the truth. They were deceived by the Heavenly Tao. There was not only one way by allowing the Heavenly Tao to become the soul mind, but also a second method by establishing order. The Buddha and the primordial ancestor felt guilty. The latter was not a good person, but he was not so ruthless as to murder and destroy the world for pleasure. His assistance to the Heavenly Tao was for the salvation of the world. Zhongli did not kill the Buddha, and prevented him from self-immolation. Firstly, the Buddha had not committed any killings, and his sin was not unto death. Secondly, Zhongli wished to request the Buddha to set up a space channel to truly link the 9 provinces with the 10,000 realms. The 9 provinces had always relied on teleportation formations and collisions, which were inefficient. With the assistance of the Buddha, a peak adept of the Tao of space, efficiency would be significantly increased. The primordial ancestor should have died and went to the underworld to settle his merits and sins. However, Zhongli was worried that the Queen of the Underworld would not be able to suppress this adept at the pinnacle level of mastering the Tao of time. Thus, he did not kill him, leaving him in the 9 provinces under the watch of the Buddha. Nor did he worry about tricks the primordial ancestor might pull with the Tao of time, as Zhongli believed Emperor Shun was watching every move of the primordial ancestor in the river of time. The reason Emperor Shun had not yet shown himself was probably due to the conflict of his title containing the character, Emperor, with the first Emperor. An idle man should take a trip to his 809th world. At least there's a brief acquaintanceship, it's worth a help. I'm also going. The first Emperor spoke in a nonchalant tone. If you go, who will manage your world? The first Emperor had thought about it early, and pointed to Bai Hongtu and said, he can do it. Bai Hongtu was delighted and quickly thanked the Emperor for his favor. There is no need for gratitude between you and me. I have been watching your performance over these years and you are more than capable for this job. Over the years, the first Emperor made the 9 provinces, policies and Bai Hongtu implemented them, they cooperated very well. Moreover, the most urgent task is to establish order in the 10,000 realms. Bai Hongtu has always been in charge of related work, delegating power to him will not cause any problems. Bai Hongtu once again expressed his thanks. Seeing that Bai Hongtu maintained his respectful demeanor even after he said, "No need for gratitude," the first emperor knew that their relationship would never return to the way it was before. "I am the first emperor, the earliest emperor, the only emperor. An emperor is lonely, and doesn't need friends," the first emperor justified to himself. "And the empress, though I don't know what your management skills are like," human emperor Zhongli said, "you are extraordinarily talented, I trust his words." The first emperor looked at Yu Yin and said unhurriedly, "Although the harem shouldn't get involved in politics, I permit you to manage the harem and the 9 provinces simultaneously." Appointing Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin to jointly manage the 9 provinces showed the trust the first emperor had for them. To all the imperial consorts in the harem, anyone wish to return home for a visit, you make the decision. I give you full authority. The first emperor loosened the control over the harem, but did not disband it. What kind of an emperor doesn't have a harem? Could it be the same as human emperor Zhongli? The first emperor could not afford to lose that face. If you two have conflicting decisions, Commander Lu will be the final arbiter. Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin looked at each other. In just a few days, the changes in the first emperor could be described as earth-shattering. They didn't know how the other Zhongli managed to do this. After arranging all matters, the first emperor thought for a while and found no omissions, so he prepared to leave with Zhongli. To reach the parallel world, it requires 2 different individuals' Dao level strength to attack at the same time. This was confirmed by the 2 respected God Hidden. If a Dao level attack from a single entity could open the channel, then it would be too easy to reach the parallel world. Parallel worlds should not influence each other, therefore, the means to reach the parallel worlds are excessively difficult. If it weren't for the unexpected accidents of the human emperor, the first emperor, and the idle man, the heavenly Tao alone could not break the isolation of the parallel worlds. Do you need my help? When the first emperor said this, his face was expressionless, but from his tone, one could sense a tinge of pride. No matter how strong Zhongli was, he still needed his help. He and Zhongli belong to 2 different entities, breaking the isolation between parallel worlds requires their joint efforts. Zhongli closed his eyes and contemplated, slowly retracted his fists, adjusted his body's acupuncture points according to the method the respected God Hidden told him, corresponded to the cosmos, then spread his palm and pushed out fiercely. Space shattered. The void shattered. There was nothing left to shatter. The channel to the parallel world was revealed. It's much easier to master than the Tao of time. By the way, what were you saying earlier? Opening the channel required a special technique and couldn't rely solely on brute force. Just now, Zhongli had been focusing on understanding the technique, and inadvertently heard the first emperor saying something. Nothing. The first emperor cursed in his heart about the unreliable respected God Hidden. Didn't they agree that it required 2 Dao level attacks to be simultaneous? The respected God Hidden's method wasn't wrong, the problem was that Zhongli wasn't at the Dao level. Let's go. Zhongli bid farewell to Yu Yin and the others, heading for the 809th world. The first emperor followed, watching Zhongli's retreating figure. Bai Hongtu sighed lightly, really enviable. If the first emperor wasn't so brutal and self-centered, he might have been like the other Bai Hongtu mentioned by Zhongli, carefree, without any worries. Looking at Zhongli and hearing the story of another Bai Hongtu, he seemed to see his young self. Stop envying, that's another world, it has nothing to do with us. At least, the first emperor is much better now than before, isn't he? Yu Yin said. Despite her words, a hint of envy still flickered in Yu Yin's eyes. Chapter 744, I can. Lu, don't be rash. Even if you make a desperate attack, sacrificing your soul, how does it matter? The opponent is a golden immortal, your assault will only be a scratch, not even a slight itch to them. The 52nd generation human emperor Qing Luo restrained Lu Yu from his reckless acts. Then what should I do? Just watch as the 10 halls of Yama fight to death. Lu Yu yelled, fell to his knees, and helplessly pounded the ground. The composure he usually showed was gone entirely. If the soul could bleed, he would have already shed blood and tears. Qing Luo helped Lu Yu up, looking at the bloody battle in the underworld sky. At this moment, the power of the Transcendence Tribulation stage seemed too insignificant. The other human emperors gathered, each regretting not being able to engage in the battle directly. The first generation Emperor Yuan Shang and Monk Long Eyebrows came over. Don't blame yourself. The 10 halls of Yama have their own opponents. We, as common underworld officials, have our own tasks to do. The remnants of a golden immortal's power can kill countless souls, and our most pressing task is to intercept the aftermath of the golden immortal's combat. Yuan Shang and Long Eyebrows were highly respected among the human emperors. Monk Long Eyebrows played a vital role in establishing the human emperor system. Long Eyebrows was the first to believe in the ancient immortals' words about the Mahayana realm and was the one who made the most significant contribution against the attack of the fallen immortals. He aimed to reach the Mahayana realm, spread Mahayana Buddhism, but his life was cut short during a fight against fallen immortals. Yuan Sheng inherited Long Eyebrows' results about the power of sentient beings, thus becoming the first human emperor and killing the fallen immortal. Together with other underworld officials, the human emperors scattered to intercept the aftermath of the battle. Still, the underworld was too vast, and the amount of personnel insufficient, resulting in many spirits being hit and disintegrated by the remnants of combat. A thud, the black and white impermanents landed, and their ghosts gradually became transparent. They were helping the 10 halls of Yama to alleviate their pressure but were defeated in no time. It's shameful that Emperor Yu is leading 18 golden immortals to launch a surprise attack on the underworld across the river of time. A human emperor who was beating his legs angrily said. We could have helped if we were there. You mean that Bast rode Zhongli? I really don't know why we were blind and chose him as the human emperor. Lu Yu, very regretful. When Zhongli was a candidate for human emperor, his performance was impressive, he was righteous and brave, daring to do an act, both in his wisdom and strategy. He significantly outperformed Yu Yin and Bai Hongtu. After hearing about Zhongli's deeds as the human emperor Lu Yu felt like they were two entirely different people. Right then, the most intense fight ever since the establishment of the underworld was taking place in the sky above it. The 10 halls of Yama were fighting against 18 golden immortals with battle immortals leading them. Back Earth God challenged Emperor Yu, who held a heavy weapon, and the situation was in a deadlock. Human emperors were of the Transcendence Tribulation stage, however, in this battle, they seemed like plankton, hardly able to shake the golden immortals tree. The big fight had lasted a few days. The underworld was obviously at a disadvantage, a few immortal artifacts were even broken. The 10 halls of Yama burned their souls several times, resorting to their absolute last resorts, trying to repel the enemies, but they were all repelled by the battle immortal. Unlike living people, who have a lifespan limit, souls were practically eternal. They could only disappear after being worn out for a long time without even having opportunities for reincarnation. Burning their souls merely sped up this process, heading towards extinction. But it was all in vain. Those who could become golden immortals were all extraordinarily talented. Yet, the battle immortal was much more robust than ordinary golden immortals. The 10 halls of Yama were more united and determined to fight, risking their lives. On the immortal realm's side, only the battle immortal was similarly betting his life, while the other golden immortals, though using all their power, were not staking their lives. With 10 against 18, the underworld inevitably lost in the end. King Wuguan, beware! The Emperor Chu Zhong yelled. But it was too late. King Wuguan was hit by a full-force strike from the battle immortal, and half of his soul was gone. It's not too late. Hurry up and retreat to heal. Emperor Chu Zhong supported King Wuguan to leave, but they were surrounded by 3 golden immortals and couldn't go back. Her Majesty, I suggest you give up. The Honorable One's success is assured. He will have the final say under the rule of destruction. If you surrender now, the Honorable One might bring you back to life in the new world, considering your contributions to the underworld. If you remain stubborn, then don't blame me for being heartless. 3 marks appeared on Emperor Yuan's palm. Physician Zhongli's power has increased drastically since the Honorable One controlled him. The means he couldn't use before are now at his fingertips. The Honorable One imprinted these 3 marks on me across the long river of time, equivalent to 3 heavenly Tao level attacks. Your Majesty should know what this implies since you are the most experienced. Originally, Emperor Yu planned to sneak attack the underworld, contact the immortal realm, bring massive armies, and conquer the underworld. Walking along the river of time, Emperor Yuan heard from the Honorable God Hidden that he had become more potent than before and presented Emperor Yuan 3 marks. So Emperor Yu modified the war plan. Back Earth Genesis obviously knew that 3 heavenly Tao level attacks would seriously injure her and that capturing the underworld would not be difficult. Injure. Emperor Yu laughed. Do you still think the Honorable One is the same as before? Honestly, these 3 attacks will thoroughly kill you. After gaining wisdom, Heavenly Tao hasn't changed much, but his tone has gotten bigger. Back Earth Genesis coldly snorted, refusing to yield. Back Earth Genesis cursed in her heart, wondering who Zhongli was that he could provide such substantial assistance to the Heavenly Tao. The system task didn't include going to the underworld. There was no intersection between Back Earth Genesis and Zhongli. Although the human emperors kept an eye on Zhongli all the time, none of them lodged complaints with Emperor Shun. We'll know whether the Honorable One is lying or you are stiff-necked after sustaining 3 attacks. The palm of Emperor Yuan emitted light, turning into a beam of light, chopping towards back Earth Genesis. The beam was dazzling, carrying the heavenly Tao's oppression. The entire underworld was shrouded in heavenly Tao's oppression, causing sorrowful howls from dead souls. It seemed as if the whole underworld had turned into a hell to punish sinners. Back Earth Genesis wanted to dodge, but she found this beam locked on her, preventing her from escaping in whatever way she tried. Swoosh! The beam hit back Earth Genesis, cutting her from her shoulder to her belly. The remaining heavenly Tao's power was continuously consuming her soul, preventing her from recovering. A chill ran through back Earth Genesis' heart. The heavenly Tao was more potent than what Tao ancestor had depicted. The heavenly Tao had indeed become much stronger. If she took 2 more hits, she would die. Emperor Yuan also realized the power of the marks, knowing that capturing the underworld would only require 2 more attacks. So he leisurely asked, speaking of which, why isn't Tao ancestor in the underworld? The Honorable One said that Tao ancestor has reincarnated into a small monk in Jojo and is not a significant threat. Why is the Tao ancestor not here in the underworld to meet my attack? Back Earth Genesis chuckled, while Emperor Shun is slick, his word is reliable. Emperor Shun said that the future is secure. Someone will come to sort everything out. Emperor Yuan smirked, who would have expected the damned Emperor Shun could also misjudge? Who can counter the Honorable One, that so-called Zhongli? I can. The overwhelming imperial power shattered the heavenly Tao's oppression. A large hand covered with imperial symbols appeared out of thin air, firmly pressing on Emperor Yuan. A smiling ordinary man and a defiant emperor appeared in the underworld sky. Chapter 745, The Ideal Human Emperor. Yuanzu sees all futures and realizes that no matter what he does, even if he uses the remaining 2 marks, it is futile. Eventually, he will be suppressed by the Great Hand. Just like the 2 wonks goddess of the earth, there is no escape. I refuse to believe there's no solution to the future. Yuanzu spread his palms, 2 beams of light burst into the sky, illuminating the entire underworld. The imperial symbols intertwined, forming a sharp offensive, shattering these 2 beams of light, and the Great Hand fell, suppressing Yuanzu. Who are you? What makes a rebellious traitor think they have the right to know my name? Chu looked down on Yuanzu, returning with a disdainful smile. Zhongli stood, hands behind his back, looking left and right, seeing that although the people of the underworld were injured, they weren't dead, he let out a sigh of relief. I made it in the nick of time. Zhongli and Chu arrived in the 809th world, the exit was right next to the underworld. Zhongli walked in front of Chu, but compared to Chu, he was almost non-existent. Neither the underworld nor the immortal realm noticed him, their attention was all on Chu. Heavenly Tao level. Yuanzu was shocked, how could a heavenly Tao level being appear out of nowhere? Yuanzu had never seen Chu before, he didn't recognize him, but how many heavenly Tao level beings existed throughout history? What are you and Zhongli's relationship? Chu stepped on Yuanzu's face, leaving a shoe print when he moved away. I said, you are not qualified to inquire about my identity. Yuanzu believed in the law of the jungle, the stronger party was favored. Yuanzu didn't dare to express any complaints. Zhongli, there are 2 of them. Lu Yu widened his eyes, thinking he was hallucinating. There were 2 Zhongli and both were different from the one he remembered, one being excessively domineering and the other too ordinary. Zhongli took action, releasing his divine sense on the entire underworld. The bodies of 18 golden immortals became stiff, as if they were being watched by a superior existence, instinctively remaining frozen. No one else understood what Zhongli had done, only the earth goddess, Yuanzu, and Chu knew how powerful Zhongli's move was. Zhongli extended his right hand and clenched it into a fist. Including the war immortal, 18 golden immortals felt hostility filling the surrounding space, as if it wanted to seal their fate. The space began to squeeze inwards, they used various great divine powers but couldn't prevail. The space compressed into 18 points, which exploded one after another, obliterating their regenerative abilities in the process. The 18 golden immortals died. Under the heavenly decree, they could not reincarnate, their spirits scattered. All of you, stay behind. Zhongli spoke, interrupting the process of their spirits scattering. These golden immortals had committed countless atrocities, being scattered was too lenient, they deserved to suffer in hell. As for the war immortal, during the fight just now, many innocent souls perished due to the aftermath of his battle, something Zhongli from his world never did. This war immortal's karma score was no longer positive. King Wu Guan, wake up, we're saved. The king of the Chu River shook the remaining half of King Wuguan and constantly infused soul energy into him to keep him alive. King Wuguan, on the brink of death, said, "Cough cough, don't waste any more energy, I know my body, it can't be saved. Recover." Zhongli uttered 2 words, the half of King Wuguan's soul that had been shattered flowed back into his lower body, gradually restoring it to its previous state. This is whatever is said becomes law. Earth Goddess and Yuanzu couldn't believe it, wasn't this something only Dao sect could do? Zhongli went over to black and white impermanence, using the same method to restore them to the state they were in before the battle. "Are you Zhongli?" The emperors gathered around black and white impermanence, and Lu couldn't believe that the Zhongli before them was worlds apart from the one he knew. "You know him, he is Zhongli, that carefree Zhongli." The Earth Goddess descended and was surprised that someone in the underworld could identify the origins of these 2 insanely powerful people. "He and I are both Zhongli, but we are not that carefree Zhongli, we come from a parallel world." Zhongli smiled and cordially greeted the emperor seniors, leaving them pleasantly surprised. Generally, when there is a large discrepancy in strength, it becomes the determining factor, abolitionishing relationships based on seniority. Chu, holding Yuanzu, landed. He remained silent, as cold as an ice sculpture. "Why are there 2 Zhongli in a parallel world?" An emperor senior blurted out. Zhongli remembered this senior emperor. He was a famous brute from Dao sect. He could only add, "We come from 2 different parallel worlds." "Oh, thank you both for saving the underworld." The Earth Goddess was very respectful to the 2, guessing that they were the prophesied saviors that Emperor Shun spoke of. "Your Majesty is too kind, the underworld concerns the order of life and death, disregarding our personal friendship, it's only right that I lend a helping hand." The Earth Goddess blinked, "Do we know each other?" "I know you from a parallel world." Seeing Zhongli's reaction, the Earth Goddess felt that her parallel world self and Zhongli must have been very close. Chu kicked Yuanzu. "Speak, where is the heavenly Dao?" Yuanzu smirked. "If it wasn't for His Majesty being occupied with carefree people in other parallel worlds, would you be able to act so assured here?" Chu went up and slapped Yuanzu twice. "Stop smirking, speak properly. In my world, you are someone who knows the score. I can't believe in this Zhongli's world, you're stupid as a pig." Zhongli interrupted. "After your heavenly Dao becomes the sole concept, it'll directly create a new world, not revive yours." "That's impossible." Zhongli ignored Yuanzu, letting Chu reason with him. "The carefree Zhongli has become a puppet of heavenly Dao, yet why are you 2 unaffected?" The Earth Goddess wondered. "Very simple, the heavenly Daos in our respective worlds were killed by me." "What? The heavenly Dao perished?" The Earth Goddess was incredibly shocked. How could there be such a great disparity between the same Zhongli? Lu observed Zhongli with mixed feelings. Polite, measured in speech and action, composed, able to stabilize the universe, protect Jojo from intrusion by extraterrestrial demons. He had hope in the carefree Zhongli to become such a person. The result was that the carefree Zhongli only achieved protection of Jojo from extraterrestrial demon invasion. Unexpectedly, what the carefree Zhongli failed to achieve, the Zhongli from a parallel world succeeded in. How she envied his parallel world. Compared to the parallel world's version of herself, she was more than satisfied with this successor. "What's wrong? Why are you looking at me like that?" Zhongli laughed. The senior emperor had always shown him a stern face. Being looked at like this all of a sudden, he felt a bit uncomfortable. "In all honesty," Lu said, "you are better than the best emperor I had in mind. That carefree Zhongli, there is a great disparity between his performance at the emperor candidacy and after becoming the emperor." Zhongli knew why. The senior emperor thought the Zhongli during the emperor selection period was excellent because that's when the carefree Zhongli was completing tasks. After becoming the emperor, the system no longer issued tasks. The carefree Zhongli started to act freely, let go of himself. With the carefree Zhongli completing tasks systematically without thinking, missing opportunities for growth, having no mental growth but instead being corroded by the system, how could he be a good emperor who cares for his people? This was also one of Heavenly Dao's goals, to allow for easy control. With the carefree Zhongli's mindset, he should not have been chosen by the Earth Pulse. But under the cover of the system, it was enough to affect the Earth Pulse's judgment. Lu noticed out of the corner of his eye, Chu was still educating Yuanzu, his every movement displayed an emperor's domineering aura. He seemed like a tyrant who protects his own. Lu wondered what Jojo was like under his rule. Chapter 746. Zhongli was having a delightful time with the others from the underworld, engaging in casual conversations about the extraordinary occurrences they had encountered. At that time, the 10 halls of Yama all challenged me together to test my abilities. After our battle ended, King Chuzong complained that I did not hit him hard enough to even knock out his teeth. There's also Mother Hu too, who posed as a female ghost. She hoodwinked me into touring the underworld and tricked me into drinking Mengpo soup, hoping to make me the master of the underworld. Luckily, Mengpo's soup had no effect on me. I remembered my true identity, and I am certainly not the master of the underworld. Senior Buddha Long Eyebrow, I have seen you in the river of time. However, I was afraid that conversing with you would affect the direction of the world, so this is actually our first real conversation. Upon seeing Zhang Li, Buddha Long Eyebrow was filled with thoughtful reflection. 9,000 years ago, he was the closest to achieving immortality. However, the disappearance of the path to becoming immortal led him to the brink of spiritual collapse. He sought alternative paths to immortality and almost fell into the devil's path in the process. At that time, Immortal Long Eyebrow told him that after the Transcendence Tribulation stage, there is the Mahayana realm. This helped stabilize his mind and shift his focus towards attaining the Mahayana realm and the Mahayana Buddhist law, surmising a connection between the two. After he died in battle and came to the underworld, he discovered that the Mahayana realm didn't actually exist, and realized that Immortal Long Eyebrow had deceived him. He understood the necessity of Immortal Long Eyebrow's false words. The idea of the Mahayana realm was meant to give hope to those at the Transcendence Tribulation stage. After over 8,000 years, he had given up on pursuing the Mahayana realm. However, a human emperor unexpectedly emerged in the Jojo continent and genuinely attained the Mahayana realm. Unfortunately, that human emperor was a disappointment to Buddha Long Eyebrow. The human emperor only reached the Mahayana realm but had no connection to the great Buddhist law. Now, he has finally found someone who has achieved both the Mahayana realm and embodies the principles of Mahayana Buddhist law. How wonderful! Elsewhere, after being educated by Emperor Chu, the primordial ancestor finally realized that he had been deceived by the heavenly Tao. It's unknown how Jojo, which is ruled by ordinary people, will fare, or how far it is from establishing order. The path of time can aid in establishing order, so for now, I'll spare your life. Hearing the descriptions of Jojo from the old human emperor, Emperor Chu realized that Jojo was still far from reaching a state of order. Alright, let's leave the conversation here for now. If we can resolve the rule of destruction, we will have plenty of time in the future to chat. Our priority now is to observe the state of this world. Zhang Li stood up, bidding everyone farewell. According to the words of primordial ancestor, it won't be long before the heavenly Tao brings back the idle populace. Emperor Chu and I will wait until that happens. Emperor Chu decided to leave the primordial ancestor in the underworld for the moment, planning to bring him to Jojo after fully understanding its current state. Watching the fading figures of Zhang Li and Emperor Chu, the human Emperor Lu sighed deeply. His sigh carried a hint of helplessness, but was mostly filled with relief. Alright, get prepared. In a few days, a large number of immortal souls might come to register in the underworld. Yama, you will have a hard time. Mother Hutu patted the shoulder of King Yama, entrusting him with this heavy responsibility. King Yama contemplated how long it would take to settle karma from those immortals, who often lived for tens of thousands of years and had destroyed countless worlds in their lifetimes. Looks like it's time for some overtime work. You're called Battle Immortal. Are you interested in working in the underworld? Before going directly to Jojo, Zhang Li and Emperor Chu first paid a visit to Zhou Tian's world. Upon seeing the identical blue star, both of them knew that the idle populace had experienced the same things as they had. As expected, the only differences among us are our beliefs after we transcended. I stick to my ideas, believing that the world can achieve fairness and justice. You are fixated on the fact that you were framed by the nobles, wanting to establish order in the world, yet also desiring to become part of the privileged class. As for the idle populace, they have given up. Maybe he felt that his persistence in justice was meaningless as it led to his death. The world didn't change, and he was given a second chance at life by the heavens. He wanted to cherish it, live freely and carefree, no longer thinking about how to change the world. Or perhaps he was guided step by step by the system, ending up the way he is today. His mental disorder made him subconsciously believe that energy is not conserved. Emperor Chu didn't speak, nor did he object. That meant he agreed with Zhang Li's point of view. Different beliefs have led to their current selves. Zhang Li had no regrets, and neither did Emperor Chu. Let's go to Jojo. Remember, we have to disguise ourselves. In the busy streets, the two individuals, who had altered their appearances, listened to the conversations of the passers-by. It's been a long time since we've seen the human emperor. Isn't the white human emperor always? Oh, you mean Zhang Li. You're right, we haven't heard from him for a year. It doesn't feel much different whether he's here or not. If you hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't have noticed his absence. The human emperor has ascended to the immortal realm and there hasn't been any news since then. The 8 desolate realms are still watching our JoJo closely. Fortunately, White Human Emperor has boosted his cultivation to the heavenly immortal level through the spirit plant array, and with the aid of immortal artifacts, he has solved the problems caused by the 8 desolate realms. The spirit plant array was given to the idle populace by Zhongli in a dream, and they later transferred it to Bai Hongtu. It seems to have worked effectively. The immortal realm has also been silent. Logically, since the immortal realm has appeared, why is there still no one ascending? A year ago, the shadow of the immortal emperor appeared in the sky over JoJo, and an immortal ascension ladder even connected JoJo. The immortal realm later recalled the ladder. To those who didn't know the truth, it seemed that the immortal realm had noticed JoJo and would prevent any invasion from alien heavenly demons. Neither immortal long life Wang nor old Buddha of Mount Sumeru seemed to have any intention of ascending. Especially old Buddha of Mount Sumeru, he became an immortal under impossible circumstances. But he did not celebrate excessively. Instead, he has remained alone at the top of Mount Sumeru ever since and never stepped down. Who knows, perhaps the upper-level cultivators know something that we do not. Speaking of Zhongli, he really evokes envy. He has so many beautiful companions serving him. If I had one of them, it would be worth living half a lifetime less. Forget it. With your tortured cucumber-like face, lack of cultivation, and flawed personality, why would they fancy you? I'm just saying. Who would dare to fancy the human emperor's companions? That's a death wish. I heard that 500 years ago, the human emperor already had ambiguous relationships with many female cultivators. Some rich young masters with high cultivation and a profound background sought to duel with the human emperor. Only the victor would be worthy of courtship. The result is obvious. The young talent of the human emperor was capable of fighting across realms. Those who coveted the affections of the emperor's companions were all put in their place. Not just that, I heard that a lineage's sole daughter fell for the human emperor, but the family didn't approve as they looked down on the young and inexperienced human emperor. What happened afterward is clear. The human emperor went against all odds and reached the Mahayana realm. Even though the human emperor didn't hold a grudge, that family became a 1,000-year-old lineage. The first thing that local officials do when they take office is to try to acquaint themselves with that family, who truly lived a life of glory. Chapter 747. When one man achieves enlightenment, even his pets ascend to heaven. And there's the Zhang family, who have seized what originally belonged to the human emperor, suppressing his growth, while grooming Zhang Yixing. And what's the result? The human emperor did not rely on external items, his cultivation quickly surpassed Zhang Yixing, the one valued by Yang's family, and he defeated Zhang Yixing at the family conference. The Zhang family lost face. If I were the clan leader of the Zhang family, I would be green from regret. Speaking of which, I remember that there is a person related to the human emperor in Sleeping Dragon City of the Great Yang Dynasty. The speaker first came to Sleeping Dragon City and was unfamiliar with it. Stand aside, all of you, stand aside. The Meng family is on the move. If anyone gets trampled underfoot, it's their own bad luck. This young lady is not responsible for it. The sound of horse hooves and a whip came from a far distance, along with a haughty voice. A young girl in a bright red dress rode her horse through the market street. Those who saw her quickly moved aside, terrified of getting trampled by the horse. The hawkers also quickly packed up their goods, but some were not quick enough and lost many items under the horse's hooves. If they had a storage ring, they would not pack so slowly. However, in this Kyushu, the price of a storage ring is not something a street vendor can afford. The man who was speaking just now did not react in time, and after everyone around him ran away, he just stood there blankly. His companion hurriedly pulled him aside, and the girl on the horse whizzed past them. Just when the two were about to fall, a pair of big hands supported them. "Are you all right?" asked Zhang Li. The two were still in shock. That huge horse was not an ordinary horse, but a horse with demonic bloodline, enormously powerful. If stepped on, they would not get out of bed for months. "We're fine, thank you, sir." Who was that girl? How could she be so arrogant and rampant? Zhang Li hadn't seen such an arrogant person in a long time. Riding a horse recklessly on the street, treating human lives as a joke. It's not the first or second time this has happened. The people of Sleeping Dragon City are not strangers to that girl. Her name is Meng Yue. She is the only daughter of the Meng family and is deeply loved by her great-grandmother. You could say she is the apple of everyone's eye. The Meng family. Originally, the Meng family was just a small clan, but they were lucky. A girl from their clan encountered danger during her travels, and was saved by the human emperor, Zhongli. In order to show her gratitude, she became his handmaid, who is now the great-grandmother of the Meng family. Zhongli sneered, "Does the human emperor Zhongli not have hands and feet? Why would he need a maid? You can't say it like that. Those who have reached divinity transformation stage or body integration realm, who doesn't have a maid? It's a status symbol." The two rescued by Zhongli did not agree with his opinion. This is quite common in Kyushu. Why should the human emperor be an exception? Human Emperor Chui snorted coldly, "Incompetence. My imperial name alone is the greatest status symbol. I need no one to compliment me." Zhongli glanced at Emperor Chui with a seemingly amused look, full of mockery. Emperor Chui knew what Zhongli meant. He was simply mocking him for utilizing his harem to lift his own status, no different from those idle people. So what? I can always change. So the Meng family has indeed made a connection with the human emperor. In Sleeping Dragon City, it would be safe to say that the world belongs to the Meng family. No one dares to provoke them, not even the city lord can act without considering the Meng family's influence. Meng Yue has grown up with a golden spoon in her mouth, acting arrogantly from a very young age, riding horses recklessly in the streets and whipping people. In the past, there were the Chen family, the Zhang clan, and the Ma clan in Sleeping Dragon City, who didn't care about our common folks either. Now, on top of these nobles, another Meng family has emerged. Life is getting harder day by day. The man sighed. Sometimes he really wanted to move away from Sleeping Dragon City, or rather, away from Great Yang. Zhou Dynasty and Tianyuan Dynasty are all better than Great Yang. However, the distance to Zhou and Tianyuan was too far, they cannot even afford the travel expenses. There are no space channels in Kyushu to link various places. Doesn't the Imperial Palace care? Doesn't the Great Yang Dynasty court care? The human Emperor Bai. Wait, human Emperor Bai. Yes, that's the acting human Emperor Bai Hongtu. I'm in the habit of calling him human Emperor Bai. Zhongli looked strange. Go on. Human Emperor Bai really has been trying to consider for us ordinary people and lower-level cultivators, and has implemented some policies, like encouraging various sects to publicize their cultivation techniques, lowering the threshold of cultivation, eradicating the cancer of the noble families and so on. The policies are there, but they cannot be implemented effectively, they are obstructed everywhere. After all, human Emperor Bai only reached the Transcendence Tribulation stage. Even though he is very powerful, he still lacks overwhelming strength. Even the Kyushu Defensive Array and Spirit Plant Array he deployed 10 years ago were not cooperated with by various places, thinking that with the human Emperor Zhongli, there was no need to trouble the people and waste money to deploy the array. Fortunately, the long-silent human Emperor Zhongli backed up human Emperor Bai, and only then was he successful in deploying the Kyushu Defensive Array and Spirit Plant Array. With the help of the Spirit Plant Array, human Emperor Bai became more aggressive, and that's how he managed to have some say. Those policies could thus be implemented stumblingly. This made Zhongli recall the human emperors before his ascension, who were selected by the pulse of the earth as the best candidates of that era. They inherited the will of the people, and the task of the human emperor was not just to protect Kyushu from being invaded by the heavenly demons, but also to lead Kyushu towards a better future, giving civilians and lower cultivators a chance to rise. The obligation of the human emperor comes from the hope of the people. Previous human emperors tried to change Kyushu as well, but faced great resistance. The people hoped for fairness, which meant that the upper-class cultivators did not have privileges. Offending the interests of the upper class, no one would listen to the human emperors. This was also a heart ailment for the human emperors. Only when Zhongli ascended the throne, did a significant change occur. In Zhongli's eyes, there is no such thing as upper-class interests. The world is fair, energy is not conserved, and everyone can live well. The former human emperors were extremely satisfied with Zhongli, and this was the main reason. It's not easy for Bai to serve as the human emperor. I wonder what it's like to be the human emperor he's so eager to become. The ideas of the upper class haven't changed. If you really want to fully implement the policies, there's still a long way to go. Zhongli realized the problem. In a world where power is concentrated in one, the change in the thinking of the upper class is much more important than the change in the thinking of the lower class. He led by example, for many years, before he was able to shift this notion. Emperor Chui snorted coldly, the black tide is about to come. There's no time for that. Those people won't realize their mistakes until they see blood. Emperor Chui implemented laws, any resistance was quelled with an iron fist. Emperor Chui stepped in front of the path of the girl in the red dress. Clear the way, if you don't want to die, clear the way. The girl in the red dress waved her whip, making a popping sound, trying to intimidate Emperor Chui. She loved this unrestrained process, loved the panic look on people's faces when they saw her. She was born above everyone else and had this privilege. Emperor Chui glared at the horse, looking majestic and fearsome. The horse seemed to perceive some terrifying presence, its hind legs contracted, and its front legs raised high, causing it to slump to the ground. The horse would rather fall on its own than offend Emperor Chui. The girl in red was pinned down by the horse. Emperor Chui walked over, put his foot on the girl's face, and was indifferent to her cries. Even I, the emperor, do not ride a horse in the street. What right do you have to be more arrogant than me? Chapter 748. Thus changes the hearts of parents under the heavens, no longer preferring to bear sons but daughters. Despite the first emperor's nonchalance towards human life, killing as he pleased, he never went so far as to take pleasure in tormenting the powerless. In the eyes of the first emperor, what the strong ought to do was to rule over the weak and challenge the stronger ones. Bullying the weak only served to show his own incapacity. The red-dressed maiden, Meng Yue, was crying. Having been cherished by her family since childhood, fearing even a slight wound she might get, rich young men also circled around her. When had she ever suffered such indignity? Her great-grandmother had clearly told her that as long as she was beautiful, it didn't matter what her cultivation was, and someday, she would be favored by the master, and no one would dare bully her. But this was completely different from what her great-grandmother had described. Let go of my young lady. The servant of the Meng family was horrified to see his young lady being mistreated. As she rode too fast, they unintentionally fell far behind her. They had never thought that such a situation would arise from such a small oversight. This was Sleeping Dragon City, controlled by the Meng family. Even a dragon would have to sleep here, who would dare to be so arbitrary? How dare he? Why doesn't someone rescue me? Meng Yue was furious at the tardiness of her servant. The first emperor glanced dismissively at the noisy servants, too lazy to lift a finger. The horse, frightened by the first emperor, rose to its feet, its eyes red as it charged towards the servants. Although the horse had no spiritual senses, it had its instinct to avoid danger. It sensed that if it did not do so, it might be the one to die. This beast has gone mad. Don't let it hit you. The servants were horrified, unable to dodge in time. They were knocked to the ground, their heads crushed under the horse's hooves. The death of the Meng family servants did not evoke cheers. Instead, people were worried about the first emperor. Who is this reckless youngster? If he offends the Meng family, he's certain to come to a bad end. I remember a few years ago, there was a newly initiated cultivator who saw the wrongdoings of the Meng family. He killed several servants and the next day he was found dead in the streets, with no one knowing the cause of death. Some said the Meng family retaliated, others said it was the people sent by the city lord, no one knows for sure. The cultivator's clan wanted to find the killer and avenge him, but when they heard that it was the Meng family, they dropped the idea. Should we warn him? Forget it, there's no benefit in doing so, and we don't want to draw fire upon ourselves. The crowd was whispering, nobody thought the first emperor would prevail. Great-grandmother, why don't we move our Meng family to Zhou Empery, Tianyuan or the White Marsh dynasty? The Zhou dynasty is the most powerful, even the human emperor's sleeping palace is there. The Queen of Tianyuan and White Marsh Emperor are the human emperor's beloved concubines. If the Meng family were to go there, showing a slight inclination towards us, our Meng family could strive for better development. Although Great Yang is one of the 9 empires, it ranks last. Great-grandmother Meng Yu, a dignified and elegant classical beauty. Although not of peerless beauty, she was a rare beauty. Even the princesses of the Great Yang dynasty, in comparison with her, are slightly deficient in temperament and appearance. When she heard this foolish question posed by the head of the Meng family, she was displeased. You fool, do you think those 3 empires are that easy to penetrate? Could you please clarify, great-grandmother? The human emperor's palace is in Zhou, which has displeased Emperor Gigi of Zhou. Although Gigi still calls the human emperor his brother on the surface, Gigi has long not considered him as a brother. Moreover, the laws of Zhou are strict, treating cultivators and ordinary people equally. Do you think the Meng family would have the same freedom in Zhou? Even though I have been serving the master for many years, don't think that I don't know about the Meng family's reputation. Also, female master Jade hidden in the White Marsh Emperor, they won't favor the Meng family. It's because of me that the Meng family has the status it has today, but that's only in Sleeping Dragon City. Don't dream of further progress. Then, is there any other way out for our Meng family? Of course there is, Meng Yu said casually. You have your daughter, don't you? Uaa. The head of the Meng family thought his daughter was arrogant and had insufficient talent for cultivation. What could she possibly achieve? Despite the fact that the master has never analyzed his own harem, he probably hasn't noticed something himself, but I have. What is it? The Meng family master questioned. The types of women in the master's harem rarely conflict with each other. For example, female master Jade Hidden, she is a strong, independent woman, and a ruler of a country. The White Marsh Emperor's sisters conflict with Master Jade Hidden in terms of ruling a country, but they are demons and sisters who share feelings, providing an unusual stimuli for a man. And there's the pure heart Saintess, who's innocent and naive, not competitive, and pitiful. Besides, the identity of a Saintess adds points to her. Island Master Mo from Penglai Fairy Island, a woman who has a husband but is adored by the Dragon King of the Four Seas. Ah Meow Meow from the Gu tribe, dark-skinned and flat-chested. Can you see it? They all have their own characteristics setting them apart from other women. Now, there is still a vacancy in the master's harem for a girl who is adorable and has a naughty disposition. This place is left for Uaa. But what if Uaa behaves improperly and angers the human emperor? That won't happen. I've taught Uaa since childhood to admire the strongest. After she becomes the master's woman, she would at most be a little willful towards him, but she would not do anything out of order. Taming an unruly lady is also attractive to men. At this point, Meng Yu revealed a trace of a smile. If Uaa became a member of the master's harem, she wouldn't have to be his servant anymore. There are ways to stick to a stronger person. A servant rushed into the ancestral hall in a panic. Great-grandmother, something terrible has happened. Uaa's been trampled underfoot in the street and many servants have died close to her. What? Meng Yu stood up abruptly. Nothing could go wrong with Uaa. Someone strong enough to kill the servants must not be any common man. Hurry and contact the city lord and the lord of the branch of the sky mechanism tower that is stationed in Great Yang. Yes, when Meng Yu arrived at the scene, she saw a very bizarre scene. A dignified man was stepping on Uaa, her pretty face rolling around on the ground. Uaa's crying didn't soften the man's heart at all. The people around were kneeling on the ground, worshipping the man. Who are you? Do you know what the human emperor means to us? Meng Yu was about to say indirectly, suggesting that they had the support of the human emperor, but she was interrupted. Why don't you kneel when you see me? Meng Yu's legs gave out from under her and she fell to her knees, her face showing fear. She finally understood why the others were kneeling on the ground, not out of their own volition, but because this man's aura was so powerful that it forced them to kneel. Despite Meng Yu's worldly experiences from constantly being around Zhongli, she had never heard of such a thing. What kind of cultivation level was this man at? I've waited half a day, and all that comes is a wretch's maidservant. The first emperor gripped Meng Yue's hair and walked in front of Meng Yu. Meng Yu, crawling on the ground, could only see the emperor's feet. Tell me, what has this wretch, Zhongli, been doing since becoming the human emperor? It was only then that Meng Yu understood that the wretch's maidservant was not intended to insult her, but to call Zhongli a wretch. Chapter 749. You disappoint me. Has idle man ever tried to change the customs of Jojo? The emperor lifts his tone. Meng Yu, being exceptionally intelligent, knows the crux of the question and hurries to change his answer. Your Majesty, Master said that the customs of Jojo have come about over millions of years and serve a purpose. No human emperor throughout history has altered too much of it, which indicates that this is part of the historical process. As a human emperor, it is not permissible to reverse history and change Jojo. The emperor sneers coldly. Meng Yu continued. Master also speculated that he has good relations with the upper-level cultivators. If Jojo was changed, it would mean going against all the upper-level cultivators, which is not conducive to unity. Then, has he ever punished the evil and praised the virtuous? Meng Yu understood that the man before him was inclined towards fairness and justice. She replied, following the emperor's preferences, yes, Your Majesty. Master often draws his sword to help when he sees injustice. He is praised by the world. When he sees someone killing in the streets, he kills the murderer. When he learns that this person's clan often carries out evil deeds and commits arson, he exterminates the clan and the locals applaud. Is it just like this? Where does the root of that clan's evil deeds lie? Why did no one report it until idle man, that waste, arrived to punish it? How many of such clans are there in places that idle man cannot see? If the system does not change, once that clan disappears, a new one will rise. Does he not know this, or has he not thought about it? The emperor's questions rendered Meng Yu speechless. Wouldn't an ordinary person's approach be to dig out the root of the problem and get rid of it? Who would consider what to do when new villains appear? Daring to look up, Meng Yu saw that the emperor had his eyes closed and was not looking at her. It seemed as if the series of questions just now was not meant for her, but for her master who was somewhere unknown. With the horses lying on the ground, the emperor lay on the horse's back with his eyes shut, appearing rather slack. Faced with such an emperor, Meng Yu didn't even dare breathe heavily. She felt this side of the emperor was even more terrifying. Who was backing the Meng family from behind? Its master. Before idle man, there were 71 generations of human emperors. Have you ever heard of the imperial families, heard of the Lu family, the Qing family? Generations of human emperors never oppressed the weak with their power. They believed that becoming a human emperor didn't imply that their families should prosper. On the contrary, generations of human emperors kept their families low-key and humble, warning them not to be complacent because of their existence. Although I think the previous human emperors have been pedantic and overly strict about themselves, I still admire their character. How does idle man deserve it? He even created a major family from his maidservants. If he reared a dog, wouldn't he be able to create a dog family? Meng Yu couldn't answer, nor dared to answer. Well, let's destroy the Meng family. The emperor's words made Meng Yue and Meng Yu feel as if they were falling into an ice cellar. It seemed like an unchangeable fact, regardless of the tremendous divine skills you possess, it would be of no use. His Majesty is wise. Although my Meng family is one of the local families in Sleeping Dragon City, we've never killed anyone. If we had, Master wouldn't have let us off. The emperor remained unmoved. A streak of light rushed to the sky above Sleeping Dragon City. It was also a breathtakingly beautiful woman. Lan Ke, save us. Seeing the visitor, Meng Yu felt like she had seen her savior. She hurriedly cried for help. This was the female cultivator at the body integration realm and one of Master's concubines. Upon seeing the emperor, Lan Ke felt as if she were facing a formidable enemy. This man was no ordinary person. How did such a character appear in JoJo? I am Lan Ke, the hostess of the Great Yang branch of Sky Mechanism Tower. May I ask who you are? The emperor was lying on the horse's back with his eyes still shut. I don't like anyone above my head. Lan Ke's back was suddenly hit by an unknown force. She spat out blood and thumped down in front of the emperor, kneeling on the ground. The terror of Lan Ke was even greater than Meng Yu's. She recognized that it was not the effect of words but that the man before her was too powerful. His will enveloped the surrounding area. In this area, his will was absolute. This was beyond the measurement of realms. I heard from Emperor Zhongli that idle man once wanted to draw a map of JoJo. Before this, the map of JoJo was monopolized by Sky Mechanism Tower. Because there was a disciple of Sky Mechanism Tower in idle man's harem, he gave up this idea. This disciple of Sky Mechanism Tower, was it you? When the emperor heard Zhongli talk about this, he was somewhat irritated, considering the ridiculous reason for not making a map. Long ago, the emperor had given Sky Mechanism Tower two options, submit or die. The Sky Mechanism Tower chose to submit. Now, they were responsible for the intelligence work of the Xian dynasty. Lan Ke hesitated for a moment, and then said, yes. From then on, she was valued by the host of the Sky Mechanism Tower, taken as a closed-door disciple, and trained to become the hostess of a branch. The emperor opened his eyes, got off the horse's back, and without a word, grabbed Meng Yue's neck with one hand, and Meng Yu's neck with the other. The two women struggled desperately, like drowning people trying to grasp anything that could save their lives. I suggest you release Meng Yu, otherwise I will crush this teleportation talisman. Even you would not like the opponent that would be teleported here. Lan Ke suddenly convulsed. All the meridians in her body were burning. She was terrified to find that her cultivation was retrogressing. It finally retrogressed to the nascent soul stage. If she hadn't taken a lifespan extension pill, she would have died of old age by now. Even so, she wouldn't live for many more years. I have been cultivating fiber myself recently, so I'll spare you from death. Lan Ke gritted her teeth and hesitated no more, immediately tearing up the teleportation talisman. The teleportation talisman turned into shards of light, forming a teleportation array. A woman in emperor's attire with a gourd at her waist appeared. The emperor narrowed his eyes, not expecting that Yu Yin would appear. Lan Ke communicated the situation to Yu Yin via divine sense. The conversation of the divine sense was extremely fast, and in an instant, Yu Yin knew what had happened. This was self-inflicted by the Meng family. She had already warned Meng Yu to be cautious, but Meng Yu didn't listen, self-righteously thinking that as long as she had Zhong Li as a backer, she would be worry-free. She was only thinking about how to please Zhong Li. Seeing Yu Yin, Meng Yu was overjoyed knowing that she would be saved. Yu Yin was the most powerful in Master's harem. "Madam, save me." Yu Yin hesitated for a moment, then spoke politely. "Although the Meng family has not directly killed anyone, they have indirectly caused many deaths. But ultimately, Meng Yu is Zhong Li's maid. Could you spare her life? I will definitely teach her a good lesson on behalf of Zhong Li." Yu Yin wanted to save Meng Yu, who apparently was hard to be accountable to Zhong Li if she died. The emperor tightened his grip, severing the necks of Meng Yue and Meng Yu without delay. Yu Yin didn't expect the opponent to be so merciless. A voice came from behind Yu Yin. "Yu Yin, you've disappointed me." Zhong Li appeared behind Yu Yin, his eyes were disappointing. It seemed as if he was not looking at Yu Yin, but another person. In his memory, Yu Yin wouldn't plead for people like this. "Love has changed you." The emperor looked at her in the same way. Yu Yin, the empress, would not do something like this. Yu Yin in Zhong Li's world wasn't much different from Yu Yin in the emperor's world. Chapter 750, similar to JoJo 500 years ago. The mansion of the Lord of Wolong City. The Lord of Wolong City was trembling with fear as he looked at the man sitting in the main seat, afraid that he might be killed. He stuttered a warning to the man. "I was appointed by the great Yang, you cannot kill me." When the city lord heard of someone causing trouble and provoking the Meng family in the city, his original intention was to lead his troops to suppress it. However, before he could step out of the doorway, a man approached him with a smile, asking for the books that recorded all the major and minor events of Wolong City over the years. Even against his own will, the city lord obediently handed the man the documents like a servant. Zhong Li casually flipped through the records of Wolong City and the records of cases handled, ignoring whatever the city lord was saying. Over the years, the Meng family indeed did not kill anyone. Zhong Li knew that although slothful people might neglect their duties, they still had a line that they would not cross. They would not let their subordinates kill wantonly, as such behavior belonged to the demonic path. Meng Yu also knew this was a line that she should not cross, so she never did. Zhong Li felt that this idle person probably didn't know about the affairs of the Meng family. After all, who would care about the family of a maid? But, what's the difference between the actual deeds of the Meng family and murder? Seizing farmland, opening brothels, monopolizing products in collusion with other families, controlling the production of elixirs and artifact refining, buying at low prices and selling at high prices, charging an additional 20% protection fee from foreign businessmen who want to set up shops in Wolong City. And you, our esteemed city lord, in order to please the Meng family, impose private arbitrary taxation and heavy levies. Zhong Li patted the city lord's shoulder with a smile. "Don't worry, I believe that you are not the only one responsible." So, the city lord's eyes filled with hope. "The supervisors and the emperors above you are also problematic. You won't be lonely on your way to the underworld." Zhong Li did not kill the city lord right away. From a macro perspective, the entire environment of JoJo was not much better. Killing one Meng family or one city lord would not bring about much change. In other places, there were no idle people or Meng family, but there were other powerful families controlling and exploiting commoners. The rule of survival of the fittest was evidently manifested in JoJo. It's similar to JoJo 500 years ago. Those in power don't seek governance. Zhong Li couldn't help but sigh, reminding him of JoJo 500 years ago. At first, when he was in Zhou Dynasty, he didn't feel much and thought that JoJo was quite peaceful. But after visiting Tianyuan and the Great Way, his perspective broadened and he realized that Zhou was the exception. Acts of injustice were happening everywhere in JoJo. Of course, the overall situation was much better than what it was like 9,000 years ago, which was the result of the hard work of generations of human emperors. Has Yu Yin arrived? Zhong Li had been keeping an eye on the situation with Chu Emperor, worrying that he might kill everyone by accident. Zhong Li appeared behind Yu Yin when he heard her pleading for Meng Yu. His grin gradually disappeared, and he found the woman in front of him quite unfamiliar. "Yu Yin, I'm very disappointed in you. Who are you?" Yu Yin turned around to meet Zhong Li's gaze and her eyebrows furrowed. He didn't hide his disappointment, as if she had done something terribly wrong. This upset Yu Yin. "We've met before, in a dream." Yu Yin's eyes widened as she remembered something from 10 years ago. "You're the one who looks exactly like Zhong Li." Yu Yin remembered that 10 years ago, Zhang Li, the idle man, fought against him and returned in defeat. When she asked Zhang Li who the other person was, Zhang Li didn't say anything. It seems the idle one didn't tell you anything. This isn't a place for conversation. Come, let's go to your Tianyuan Emperor's palace. Chu Emperor, you come as well. Zhang Li called out to Chu Emperor. When they got back to the Tianyuan Emperor's palace, Zhang Li and Chu Emperor revealed their true selves. Yu Yin was shocked, she didn't expect the two to look exactly alike. Should I put the Ruyi gourd out? Yu Yin pointed to the Ruyi gourd on her waist. The Ruyi gourd was intelligent, but it was mysteriously afraid of the Chu Emperor and didn't dare to speak. Zhang Li waved his hand, no need, it's not a secret. I am Zhang Li, and so is he. You can also refer to him as Chu Emperor. We come from a parallel world where you, Bai Hongtu, Chief Lu, and Elder of Longevity also exist. As expected, Yu Yin wasn't surprised by this answer as she had heard about the hypothesis of parallel worlds from old Buddha Sumeru. You seemed disappointed in me earlier. Yu Yin asked uncertainly. Zhang Li sighed, the Yu Yin in my world would never plead for Meng Yu. Especially if Meng Yu is my servant, she would be punished even more severely. How did you meet the Idle One and what is your impression of him? I met the Idle One while exploring a secret realm. At that time, I had the backing of the Tianyuan royal family, while the Idle One was of ordinary origin and his cultivation level was lower than mine. We weren't supposed to have any interaction. However, I encountered an enemy in the secret realm. The Idle One and I fought and killed the enemy together. Unexpectedly, the enemy was still barely alive at the end and released a love elation poison on me. If I didn't detoxify the poison, my body would explode and die. To save me, the Idle One detoxified the poison with his body. Zhang Li recalled that he and Yu Yin had met in that secret realm as well, where they encountered an enemy sent by the younger brother of the Tianyuan crown prince. Zhang Li and Yu Yin collaborated to kill him, not giving the enemy the chance to release the love elation poison. Chu Emperor seemed to be deep in thought as he had a similar experience as Zhang Li. Afterwards, I was worried that the Tianyuan crown prince would know about this and take it out on the Idle One, so I buried this matter in my heart and never spoke about it to anyone. I also wanted to distance myself from the Idle One and never see him again. Sadly, things never turned out as I wished, as if the heavens were playing tricks on us. The Idle One and I kept bumping into each other. As our interactions increased, I gradually became attracted to him. As Zhang Li listened to Yu Yin talking about the places where she met the Idle One, he gently shook his head. He hadn't been to any of those places. He didn't need to ask to know that it was the system's tasks that caused it. During the human emperor's candidacy test, the old man noticed that I was letting my personal feelings interfere with my cultivation and would find it difficult to achieve greatness. He suggested, albeit indirectly, that I either sever my ties with the Idle One or withdraw from the candidacy for the human emperor. I was torn between the two options and was leaning towards severing my ties with the Idle One. However, during a life-threatening situation, the Idle One was on the verge of death for trying to save me. From that moment on, I fell deeply in love with him and chose to withdraw from the candidacy for the human emperor. Zhang Li remembered that event. At that time, Yu Yin was in mortal danger, but she overcame it on her own and achieved a deeper understanding of her cultivation technique through her near-death experience. She seized that opportunity to break through to the body integration realm from the divinity transformation stage. She was the first among the three of them to achieve the body integration realm, while Zhang Li and Bai Hong were a step behind. That was why Yu Yin said, "There is great terror in life and death, but also great opportunities," and sought a breakthrough to the transcendence tribulation stage through a life and death ordeal. Yu Yin deliberately provoked the rebels of the Tianyuan Emperor dynasty, went through a battle of life and death, and advanced to the transcendence tribulation stage. In the Idle One's world, Yu Yin didn't have this realization, so she didn't deliberately pursue a life and death ordeal. The Yu Yin in front of Zhang Li was merely at the peak of the body integration realm. Chapter 751. Two of you, can you grant this poor monk a death? The first time Zhang Li came to despise the system was when he learned that the system would issue a no recommendation to abandon task, increasing the favorability of women through task completion and treating women as toys, to conquer the White Marsh Emperor. Later, the Tianyuan Crown Prince, upon seeing me abandon my candidacy for the human emperor, was infuriated and had me imprisoned in the cold palace. When idle people learned of this, they secretly plotted and used an unknown method to stimulate the Ruyi gourd. They successively defeated the Tianyuan Crown Prince and Emperor of Heaven origin and rescued me, making me the Tianyuan Empress. The Yu Yin of Zhongli's world won the throne on her own with the assistance of the Ruyi Gourd, without the incidents of being banished to the cold palace and receiving assistance from Zhongli. The subsequent events were similar to what Zhongli knew. She diligently cultivated, worked conscientiously, and carried the fortune of the nation when fighting against the heavenly demons. However, she was not as decisive and ruthless as the Yu Yin that Zhongli knew, and she did not transcend into the transcendence tribulation stage due to the lack of a major test between life and death. Moreover, the rebels in the Tianyuan Emperor dynasty knew that the idol woman was Zhongli's woman, and after seizing the throne, she intended to retaliate. Only after Yu Yin, on Zhongli's side, achieved the transcendence tribulation stage did she solidly secure her throne. On the other side, Yu Yin was able to maintain her position as the empress thanks to the power of the idol woman. How do I describe the idol person now? I always feel she's different from before. To put it nicely, she's playing with human feelings. To put it harshly, she's lost her own judgment and is following the crowd. I don't know if this is an illusion or something else. Yu Yin did not dare to reveal this and discuss it with others. Doubting her partner could result in irreparable rifts between them. Love is sometimes so fragile that if it were to happen, it would be too late for Yu Yin to regret it. How would you feel if somebody could see your favorability rating and knew exactly what to do to raise it? Yu Yin frowned. Of course, it's very uncomfortable. What's the difference between me and a puppet then? With pitiful eyes, Zhongli looked at Yu Yin. He bid farewell to Yu Yin and stood up to leave. Yu Yin stared blankly at their receding figures, recalling the pitiful look Zhongli had given her. Her chest tightened with anxiety. She lay on the bed, murmuring to herself. Don't look at me with pity. Why haven't you said anything? Zhongli asked Emperor Chu. Emperor Chu shook his head. It's too strange. I don't know what to say. How has Yu Yin, the most independent, most determined, and most righteous woman I've ever met, become like this? The parallel world is always different after all. Zhongli suddenly turned his head. Old Buddha, you're here, aren't you? Why don't you come out for a chat? Amitabha, I didn't expect to be able to see two Zhongli in my lifetime in a real parallel world. The space twisted and a tall Buddha supporting a Brahmin pagoda emerged from another space. His face was aged, his brows furrowed, looking as if he was saddened for the people of the world. The moment Zhongli and Emperor Chu entered Jojo, Mount Sumeru, the old Buddha sensed something unusual with the space. He had assumed it was someone from the immortal realm, so he even brought the Brahmin pagoda as a guard. What he didn't expect was that the newcomer's origin was even more astonishing than what he thought. It was Zhongli from a parallel world. This idle man, he actually let you live, Emperor Chu said unpleasantly. In his world, when he found out that the old Buddha of Mount Sumeru, influenced by Duyi, had set up the god-hidden cult to kill people and earn merit to immortalize, he went directly up to Mount Sumeru and executed the old Buddha. Emperor Chu was a righteous person who gave due credit where credit was due. Since old Buddha of Mount Sumeru had been kind to him, he should repay him the same way. But he is also a person who could separate public from private matters. In order to immortalize, the old Buddha of Mount Sumeru killed too many people, which is an evil act. All who follow the path of evil should be put to death. Zhongli was not surprised at the survival of old Buddha of Mount Sumeru. He had seen the mentor of old Buddha of Mount Sumeru, Long Eyebrow Buddha, in the underworld. Technically, Long Eyebrow Buddha should have voluntarily entered the cursed road of reincarnation, constantly reducing the sins of old Buddha of Mount Sumeru. However, the fact was that Long Eyebrow Buddha was still in the underworld, which indicated that old Buddha of Mount Sumeru was still alive. Zhongli recalled the situation when he killed old Buddha of Mount Sumeru. He could say that he went to kill old Buddha of Mount Sumeru with tears in his eyes. Zhongli was a man of gratitude, but he knew that this was not a time when personal desires should prevail. If he had indulged old Buddha of Mount Sumeru due to personal desires and old Buddha of Mount Sumeru had killed again, then the mistake would be on him. Zhongli would have failed the people who had already died and those who were going to die. The old Buddha of Mount Sumeru, who was extraordinarily clever, could easily guess from their expressions that in their world, he had already been killed. I don't know what I am like in the parallel world. In this world, I am a criminal, which is a disgrace to the title of Buddha. Old Buddha of Mount Sumeru lowered his brow. Zhongli recounted what he knew about old Buddha of Mount Sumeru and the final outcome. Old Buddha of Mount Sumeru conjured up 3 lotus platforms and invited Zhongli and Emperor Chu to sit. What I did was the same as what you two understood. I established the god-hidden cult, indirectly killing many people, eventually becoming immortal and extending my lifespan. The idle person discovered the existence of the god-hidden cult during an undercover investigation. She trailed the leads and finally traced them back to me. Zhang Li had unintentionally found the God-hidden cult while carrying out the escape from the assassination of Tian Sha Pavilion task issued by the system. The moment I became immortal, I regretted it. I killed so many innocent people for my own selfish desires. What is the meaning of all that I have learned in my life? I have failed my master's teaching and the vow I once made to protect Jojo. I wanted to kill myself but I had not fully awakened and was afraid of death. I was hoping someone would come to punish me. In Zhang Li's world, old Buddha of Mount Sumeru did not leave Jojo to go to another world after becoming an immortal. Instead, he sat at the top of Mount Sumeru, waiting for Zhang Li to come. This was the reason. The idle person wavered for a long time, but in the end, he didn't do it. He just asked me to stop killing people. If there was a next time, he would punish me without mercy. The idle man exterminated everyone in the God-hidden cult, leaving only me, the sect hierarch. I was fortunate to have survived once, and I was actually delighted at the time. It was indeed a disgrace. Feeling guilty, I have been living in fear and apprehension since then, wanting to seek death but unable to find someone who can kill me. I passed on the title of Buddha Master to Wu Ji. From then on, I retired to Mount Sumeru and never went out again, except for the one time I left Mount Sumeru when the 8 desolations attacked. Now, this is the second time. Can the two of you grant this poor monk death? Old Buddha of Mount Sumeru placed his hands together, closed his eyes, and readied himself for death. His entire body was like a clay sculpture. Old Buddha of Mount Sumeru had been waiting for this day for many years. Mount Sumeru had Wu Ji, so there was no need to worry about the future. With the two Zhang Li and Jojo, there was also no need to worry about the future. It was time for him to accept his punishment. Zhang Li and Emperor Chu looked at each other, understanding the other's intentions, and attacked simultaneously. Old Buddha of Mount Sumeru burned in the fire of sins, his flesh and bone melting away and disappearing, leaving only a flawed relic behind. The Brahmin pagoda took this relic back to Mount Sumeru. Let's go, let's see how the bi-human emperor is doing as the human emperor. Chapter 752, The White Human Emperor. Hall Master Bai, there have been many frictions between the Great Yang Dynasty and the Great Wei Dynasty. According to the report from the guards, the Great Yang Dynasty is eyeing on the top-grade spirit stone mine at the border of Great Wei. Tensions between the two sides are intensifying every day, subtly forming a standoff. Emperor Wei and the Dream River Emperor have a good personal relationship. The Dream River Emperor has privately stated that if war breaks out in the Great Wei Dynasty, the Dream River Dynasty will certainly offer help. According to General Lu's assessment, if the situation is not controlled, it could eventually escalate into a three-way war among the dynasties. Bai Hongtu rubbed his temples with a pained expression. The idle man Zhang Li disappeared without trace. The immortals in the immortal realm were greedily eyeing the 9 provinces and these people were still fighting over a spirit stone mine. Have Commander Zhang Konggu go to the Great Yang Palace to convey the stance of the Imperial Palace. If the Great Yang Dynasty is intending to wage a war, they should prepare to make the Imperial Palace their opponent. Yes, how is the implementation of the various policies discussed at the beginning of the year going? The guard took out reports from various places, somewhat troubled by the statistics provided by each dynasty. Everything is going smoothly. However, according to the guards stationed in the local areas, there are signs of data falsification, alterations, and understating of important issues. The noble clans are resisting openly and secretly. There are also various voices within the dynasties, some are willing to cooperate, while others resist. The policies are being distorted at the local implementation, causing suffering to the local folks who feel that these are just face-saving projects by the Imperial Palace, and there's no shortage of complaints against the Imperial Palace's focus on appearances. Bai Hongtu sighed, all of these were within his expectations. Where's General Lu? Hall Master Bai, you were not here yesterday. Someone came to the Imperial Palace to weep and say that their master, Yuan Wuxing, found traces of the demon path in the Wuyu dynasty. He wanted to investigate in depth but was murdered on the street. The murderer is unknown. The Wuyu dynasty dismissed the case as suicide. They came to ask the Imperial Palace to seek justice for their master. After General Lu learned of this, he has already gone to the Wuyu dynasty and brought Ji Kongkong from the Great Zhou dynasty to assist in investigating the truth and clearing out the demon cultivators. Bai Hongtu nodded, indicating that he was aware of this. Under Bai Hongtu's promotion, the Imperial Palace and the Great Zhou dynasty's family have established a cooperative relationship, often helping each other, with Ji Kongkong helping the Imperial Palace the most. What about the reverse engineering of the mobile phones, computers and other items brought from other worlds by the idle man Zhang Li? We have already understood the principle, which is completely different from the cultivation system. The principle is not complicated, we can easily replicate with the artifact refining technique, but the cost of using artifact refining is very high, making it a luxury for middle-level cultivators. The current problem is how to mass-produce and reduce costs. Mobile phones, computers, and other items were technological products brought from other worlds by Zhongli to please the ladies in his harem and were not shown to others. Bai Hongtu only learned about these items recently. He wanted to popularize these products, but with little progress. There are also issues in the 8 wilderness. Although we have cleared out the demon cultivators once, there are still some that slipped through the net. However, that's not the key issue. The key is our people found traces of demon cultivation in the 8 wilderness, which seem to be not the doing of the wilderness cultivators but the cultivators of the 9 provinces. The Sword Monarch has already gone to the 8 wilderness. Where did this idle man Zhongli go? Is there anything else? Although Zhongli was not very hardworking, his cultivation level was there. With him around, the various dynasties would not dare to openly defy the imperial palace. Bai Hongtu said that he can be promoted to heavenly immortal by relying on the spirit plant Great Array. The spirit plant Great Array is set up in various places in the 9 provinces, and it is the power provided by the 9 provinces. Among them, the power provided by the major dynasties is the most. This makes Bai Hongtu, this heavenly immortal, have a deterrent effect on the outside, but it is very ordinary on the inside. There is another matter. Your disciple Yu Yushan has reached the divinity transformation stage. Bai Hongtu was startled. Such a big matter is breaking through to the divinity transformation stage. Why didn't you ask me to protect the law? She said you have been working day and night, and she couldn't bear to distract you. Hall Master Bai, rest assured, the immortal Venerable Cheng Kun personally protected the law for Yu Yushan, and the breakthrough was successful. Bai Hongtu breathed a sigh of relief. This was one of the few good news recently. You may leave. Yes. The spacious imperial palace hall was left with only Bai Hongtu. He lay on the emperor's chair, feeling mentally exhausted. Ji Kongkong, Yu Yushan, Li Nianer, they are all good kids. The next human emperor should be chosen from among them. I think Wu Ji is stronger than these 3. Why not let him be the human emperor? A hearty laughter came from the entrance of the hall. Who's there? Bai Hongtu was alert, but he didn't sense the presence of the other party. The other party must be of the immortal level. But this voice sounds so familiar. Me. Zhongli and the initial emperor appeared at the same time, standing front Bai Hongtu. Do we look familiar? Zhongli. 2 of them. You're back from the immortal realm. Zhongli scratched his head. We are indeed Zhongli, and we did come back from the immortal realm, but there is some deviation from your understanding. What's going on? Bai Hongtu quickly calmed down. He found that these 2 Zhongli were slightly different from the ones in his memory. Especially the one who hadn't spoken. He was staring at him. No, he should be staring at his chair. Do you want to sit? Bai Hongtu gave his emperor's chair to the initial emperor. The initial emperor snorted coldly, took out a throne from his storage ring. This was originally the chair of the immortal emperor. The initial emperor felt that this chair barely complemented his status. Zhongli took out a wooden stool and sat down, explaining their origins. He and I come from different parallel worlds. I am the human emperor Zhongli, and he is the initial emperor Zhongli. After Bai Hongtu listened to it, he thought for a long time before finally saying, so, does that mean Zhongli is the weakest among the 3 Zhongli? If you want to put it that way, it's not wrong. We usually call him noob. Then what about me? What was I like in your world? Bai Hongtu asked excitedly. Zhongli said seriously, if he hadn't survived due to my kindness and not seeing eye to eye with an idiot, he wouldn't have lived. Bai Hongtu. Of course, using the word idiot may not be quite accurate, but he indeed thinks differently from normal people, only I can barely keep up with it. Like Yu Yin, who attempted to imitate our way of thinking. What a joke, she could only imitate the leftovers from our play. I see you look proud. Bai Hongtu hesitated. Then in your world, are you and Yu Yin, Pure Heart Saintess, White Snow Spirit also Taoist companions? Zhongli waved his hand. No, we are all friends. If you want to ask about Taoist companions, you can ask him, who thinks that all attractive women cultivators in the world should fill his harem. Zhongli pointed to the initial emperor as he spoke. The initial emperor said solemnly, my harem has disbanded. Zhongli was shocked. When did this happen? When we left, your harem was still there. This is my decision in my heart. My decision cannot be changed, and since it cannot be changed, it is something that has already happened. Zhongli felt that there was a reason why the initial emperor couldn't learn the way of time. His concept of time was simply wrong. Chapter 753, The Second Mahayana Realm. After some jesting, Bai Hongtu got to understand the two characters of Zhongli. One was capricious, similar to who he was before he became the acting human emperor. The other was unusually domineering, undoubtedly a person who had killed many. Never would have thought that in your world, Yu Yin, you and I are close friends. In the layman's world, Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin could be called friends, but they were far from being close. This was due to the relationship between the layman and Yu Yin. Who would want to see their confidant entertaining another man? That's wonderful, your Kyushu is different from ours. Bai Hongtu was incredibly envious of Zhongli's world. You've also had it tough. I never thought it'd be so hard to be the human emperor. The Bai Hongtu I know always grumbles about wanting to be the human emperor. I wonder how he would feel if he were to encounter the situation you're in now. Bai Hongtu gave a bitter smile. He'd probably regret it. Wishing to do something but unable, in need of power everywhere but unable to muster enough. Zhongli noted that Bai Hongtu had not yet become an immortal, he was still at the transcendence tribulation stage. The immortals in Kyushu were only Chengkun Shanwang and Zumi Lefo, which indicated that the layman had not publicly disclosed the method to acquire the power of virtue. Zhongli speculated that perhaps the layman had the same considerations as himself and did not dare to spread this method to avoid a second Zumi Lefo from happening. Has this Kyushu not made contact with the 10,000 realms? Zhongli had noticed earlier that in the world of the itinerant emperor, Kyushu had many technological advances. But in the layman's world, there was no sign of this. This indicated that the Kyushu world had not yet established contact with other worlds. Bai Hongtu shook his head blankly, clueless about what Zhongli meant, establish contacts. He didn't even know the location of other worlds, how could he establish contacts? Apart from the 8th desolate world, I haven't seen any other worlds. But the layman, he's been making strange advancements from quite an early on, for reasons beyond me. For instance, at the Golden Core stage, his martial arts prowess was extremely refined, surpassing those of the martial emperor dynasty. Zhongli knew, this was the ring universe of brothers Bu Jing and Bu Dong. At the nascent soul stage, he mastered many demon techniques. This was the beast-controlling Lingxi world. At the divinity transformation stage, he was extremely adept at the use of soul power and faith power. This was the era world where gods and demon kings coexisted. Just recently, I discovered tech gadgets like mobile phones and computers in his harem. This was the Qin's Heart world formed after two worlds collided. Zhongli remembered the task given by the system in the Qin's Heart world was to sell the tech products of Qin's Heart to Kyushu. I've actually been able to guess that he probably has treasures similar to the Brahma's Tower, which allows him to shuttle through other worlds, gaining benefits and self-improvement. But since he doesn't say, and I don't want to ask, doesn't everyone have secrets? Moreover, honestly speaking, even if we were to allow Kyushu to communicate with other worlds now, there would be difficulties. Not because of technical issues, but because currently, many within Kyushu disagree with how the Imperial Palace is dealing with the 8th desolate issue. If Kyushu could actually go to other worlds, who knows what chaos could erupt. Bai Hongtu's worries were not unfounded. The people of Kyushu dared to practice demon arts right under the human emperor palace's nose. If they really were to go to other worlds, they would cause trouble. Moreover, Kyushu had only one Earth immortal and several at the Transcendence Tribulation stage. Compared to other individual worlds, it was dominant, but if several worlds joined together, Kyushu would lose control. In the end, it's because I am too weak and have not managed to become an immortal. Bai Hongtu sighed. Having ideals and pursuits is good, but the prerequisite to realizing these ideals and pursuits is having enough power. Take the three Zhongli as an example. They had vast differences in personality which resulted in their entire worlds changing, all due to the power they possessed. If the three of them were just ordinary people, what difference would their personalities make to the world? Becoming immortal is difficult, but it's not hard to get you to Mahayana realm. Zhongli smiled. There really is a way to ascend to the Mahayana realm. Bai Hongtu shot up in surprise, disbelievingly staring at Zhongli, scared that his next sentence would be, "I'm just joking." Being able to ascend to the Mahayana realm would solve many problems and greatly alleviate the pressure built up in his heart. Don't be impatient, I'll explain things to you clearly. Zhongli explained the 9 major rules. In other words, the most deadly rule now is the rule of destruction, manifested as a black tidal wave that devours everything. To resist this black tide, we need to establish order. I not only need to establish order in JoJo, but also in the myriad heavens and worlds. Bai Hongtu was surprised. This burden was not light. Don't worry, you're not alone in this. You have the aid of the grand primordial immortal from the underworld. As for help from the immortal realm, whether it is 1 or 2 people, that is uncertain. Don't feel pressured, the Bai Hongtu I know has the capacity to do this. I believe that you can too. Zhang Li didn't comfort Bai Hongtu, he truly believed this. The primordial emperor could also attest to this, Bai Hongtu's abilities were beyond doubt. Alright, I'll do it. Bai Hongtu nodded fiercely. He knew that in order to establish order, many people would be killed, and he would be labeled a butcher. The moment he nodded, he was ready to take on all consequences. I can wield the sword and kill. The primordial emperor's killing was not to help Bai Hongtu, but because he was disgusted with some of the actions of the cultivators in Jojo, which angered him. In his world, in order to establish order, many people were killed. The primordial emperor didn't mind killing these people again. Bai Hongtu shook his head. Your Majesty, I appreciate your intentions, but this is ultimately my world. I can do the killing, there's no need to soil your hands. Bai Hongtu's way of speaking to the primordial emperor was drastically different from when he spoke to Zhang Li. Did Idler tell you about the method to reach the Mahayana realm? Bai Hongtu's expression was strange, he said it many times, but no one understood. He always emphasized that energy is not conserved and that one should use infinite energy to break through realms. Zhang Li, it was clearly seen that the idler was trying hard to enhance the strength of his friends and family, to no avail. Bai Hongtu felt that the idler was not lying, but he truly didn't understand. Cough cough, what the idler said is correct, but this is only the superficial method to break through to the Mahayana realm, the actual method is. Zhang Li revealed the real method to break through to the Mahayana realm. Bai Hongtu's face became even stranger. Believe that energy isn't conserved, to make energy not conserved. How on earth did you 3 Zhang Lis come up with this method? Zhang Li was speechless. However, I believe you. Bai Hongtu's eyes were clear, choosing to believe in Zhang Li's words. He tried to overthrow his previous understanding and believe that energy is not conserved. Power of faith, come. Bai Hongtu gestured, and the power of faith from the earth pulse blessed him, the acting human emperor. He stepped down from the emperor's throne, with heavy footing, slowly walking out of the hall. This immense pressure, centered around the imperial palace, spread across all of Jojo, from commoners to immortals, all sensing this aura. This aura was gentle and pleasing, like a spring breeze, giving people hope, as if the future would be better, something to look forward to. Those with dark hearts felt terrified, but couldn't say why, as if calamity was imminent, that they must pay for their sins. Bai Hongtu stared straight ahead, his posture upright, he walked out of the hall, out of the corridor, as if carrying the future of all lives on his shoulders, the weight immeasurable, each step harder than the last. The human emperor palace guards noted the hall master's unusual state, but dared not approach him. Upon seeing Bai Hongtu's current appearance, they felt awe. With each step forward, Bai Hongtu's momentum gradually increased, eventually surpassing the levels of mortals, reaching a brand new realm. Gradually, his body began to float upward, arriving above the imperial palace. Bai Hongtu savored this previously yearned for power, bowed solemnly to Zhang Li and the primordial emperor below him, and slowly said, "Thank you both for passing down the teachings. From today onward, I am the second Mahayana stage cultivator." He had reached the Mahayana realm. Chapter 754, The Ongoing Destruction of the World. Regretting it? Regret what? The Bai Iching and Empress Yu Yin you knew could not reach the Mahayana realm, you have lost 2 opponents forever. The first emperor ignored it. Oh, finally here, Zhang Li exclaimed, a smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. The first emperor was a step late, but he felt it too. It's the aura of the respected god hidden breaking through the parallel world, he has returned. Old Bai, we're leaving first, see you later. Before leaving, Zhang Li greeted Bai Hongtu, as familiar as an old friend. Bai Hongtu instinctively responded. It was only after Zhang Li and the first emperor disappeared that he realized that they didn't seem to be that close. Soon, forces from all directions rushed to the imperial palace, wanting to find out what that throbbing aura was all about. Could it truly be the emergence of a second Mahayana realm? In a parallel world, only a few thousand worlds are left, everyone strives to destroy them all at once. The native heavenly Tao stood in the great Luo heaven making the final mobilization. Top and bottom of the immortal realm were united, the process of destroying the 10,000 realms was exceptionally smooth. A faint voice spread across the great Luo heaven. Haha, you seem to be in a good mood, even have the time to talk about these boring topics. Who's there? The native heavenly Tao suddenly looked up, but couldn't find the source of the sound. This indicated that the other party was far more powerful than him. Heavenly Tao number 809. The gate to the parallel world channel swings wide open. The number 809 Heavenly Tao leads a group of idlers to this world, appearing high above, domineering. I have already consecutively destroyed several worlds. Next, it's your turn. Heavenly Tao number 809 showed a cruel smile, seeming to have already foreseen the end. It's you. No wonder several of my Tao friends have lost contact recently, so you're the culprit. The native Heavenly Tao was horrified. There was often contact between the Heavenly Tao, but ever since they joined forces to create the system, some of them seemed to have lost contact. Like Heavenly Tao number 2400. And the number of those unreachable was becoming more and more. If it was due to the destruction rules, there would be messages before death. Dying without a sound, that was simply too strange. How is it said in the human world? Self-preservation is critical. The same applies to us. If heaven fails to act for itself, the Tao path becomes empty. Heavenly Tao number 809 claimed with conviction, and when thought over, it didn't seem unreasonable. Native Heavenly Tao faced Heavenly Tao number 809 who came across the realm, ready for battle. He felt a natural suppression when facing Heavenly Tao number 809, as if he had encountered a natural enemy, unable to even exert half of his strength. The suppression was too strong. Prepare for battle. Several figures appeared behind the Heavenly Tao. Tao Ancestor, Empress Kun, Buddha Ancestor, Confucian Saint, Yuan Ancestor, Immortal Emperor Zhongli. A total of 6 Hunyuan Wuji Immortals, surpassing the peak lineup of the immortal realm. Tao Ancestor, I didn't expect you to still be alive. Heavenly Tao number 809 was a bit surprised. He thought all the Tao Ancestors of all the worlds had chosen to oppose him. He has been to many worlds, but this is the first time he's in the world where the Tao Ancestor is alive. The Tao Ancestor speaks gravely. To confront the rule of destruction, the Heavenly Tao must become the last strand of consciousness. There is no other way. The destruction of the 10,000 realms is for the betterment of the world. The Heavenly Tao, number 809, could easily infer what had happened in this world. The Tao Ancestor stood by the side of the Heavenly Tao. Confucius followed the Tao Ancestor, persuaded the Earth Emperor. There was no rebellion in the immortal realm. Zhongli used the system to arrive in the immortal realm, replacing the ambitious immortal Emperor Changsha, becoming the new immortal emperor. However, another Tao Ancestor has emerged and is far from being full-fledged. The Heavenly Tao, number 809, smiled. Tao Ancestor, I see that you have yet to achieve the merging of 3 lives into one, even after 9,000 years. Indeed, the prerequisite of the 3 corpses merging as one is to sever the 3 corpses, which you can naturally achieve. But merging 3 lives into one, you cannot accomplish. You are the 9th creature created by Taichu, with no past life. Your death is inevitable today, with your soul dispersing and no future life. How can you achieve the merger of 3 lives as one? Enough talk. Battle. The Heavenly Tao level battle erupted here, overturning earth and heaven, reshaping this realm, and several nearby worlds were obliterated, with all lives reduced to ashes. Those several worlds had highly developed technology, capable of changing natural laws on a small scale, but they were utterly helpless against the battle between the Heaven Tao. With their ignorance and bewilderment, these worlds were extinguished. The situation in the immortal realm is not any better. The great primordial immortals fell in sequence, their souls completely annihilated, and even the Tao Ancestor could not escape this endgame. Under the control of Heavenly Tao, number 809, Wanderer Zhongli alone could withstand 6 great primordial immortals. The battle ended, and there were no more living beings in the immortal realm. Cough cough. Heavenly Tao number 809, your power, the original Heavenly Tao, with his chest opened and stomach split, countless Tao rhymes along with chaotic energy flew out from his chest cavity, pervading the entire immortal realm. The original Heavenly Tao was terrified. Heavenly Tao, number 809, had become a great force that no one could stop. Even without the help of Wanderer Zhongli, he could still sweep himself and the 5 great primordial immortals. Tao friend, rest easy. I will inherit your will and create a new world. Heavenly Tao, number 809, made a forceful stab, crushing the foundation of the original Heavenly Tao. A surge of pure power entered his body. There is a promotion again. With me at the moment, I should be 3 times stronger than before. Who can stop me now? Heavenly Tao, number 809, was very confident. His power had increased threefold, which indicated that he had killed the Heavenly Tao of 30% of parallel worlds. Together with you, that's equivalent to 4-fold of the Heavenly Tao level combat power. The respected God Hidden looked at the listless idle person. Without the help of the idle person, things would not have gone so smoothly. What a pity, killing you from parallel worlds cannot enhance your power. This method of promotion should be unique to the heavenly Tao. Wanderer Zhongli holding the immortal sword, under his feet was another Zhongli whose soul had shattered, Immortal Emperor Zhongli. Let me go, Wanderer Zhongli roared desperately with his divine sense, trying to break free from the control of the heavenly Tao, but it was in vain. The heavenly Tao's control technique over idle people was increasingly skilled and had no chance to break free on his own. In this year, under the control of the heavenly Tao, he was reckless and didn't know how many innocent worlds were destroyed because of him. Recalling those who died, his heart bled. You're so useful, I can't let you go yet. Don't worry, I won't forget your contribution. Once I rebuild the new world, you and your harem will be restored. Heavenly Tao, number 809, laughed lightly. Wanderer Zhongli was indeed too useful and made a significant contribution. If you're willing, I can give this body to you. Or when we reach the new world, I will give you greater power, let you have a prosperous love life and overflowing king-like aura, universally respected, and letting you reign peaceably over the realm, drunk on the beauty and power. Screw you, I don't need your pity. Let me go. Wanderer Zhongli cursed angrily, scolding the heavenly Tao with all kinds of harsh words. He regretted not having separated from the system earlier. The heavenly Tao didn't care and laughed heartily, dragging Wanderer Zhongli back to the world of number 809. Not long after the two left, the sound of a long river hitting the shore came from outer space, followed by the disappearance of the river's sound, as if it was swallowed by something, causing a dead silence that was unsettling. The long river of time tore open a large hole, black tide surged, covering the entire river. The black tide writhed constantly, surged towards the 10,000 realms from the hole. The black tide expanded in all directions, engulfed one world after another, unstoppable. That world was gone forever. Chapter 755, No Need to Mind Him. In the pure sky, at the Golden K Cloud Palace, a gathering of immortals is bustling about, each showing their celestial arts, all in preparation to celebrate the triumphant return of the respected God Hidden. An air of harmony pervades the place. Crossing Business Envoy, no, Crossing Business Immortal Monarch, I failed to recognize the importance of your stature in the past and was disrespectful to you without choosing my words wisely. The Honggu messenger kept kowtowing persistently, as if he wouldn't stop unless the Crossing Business Immortal Monarch forgave him. Sitting on the imperial throne, the Crossing Business Immortal Monarch raised his eyelids lazily, just clutching his arms. He saw that the one paying homage was his old rival, the Honggu messenger, and waved his hand. Ah, it's Honggu, rise, I am not of a petty nature. Let bygones be bygones. Summon a seat. I dare not, I dare not. The Honggu messenger hurriedly thanked the Crossing Business Immortal Monarch for not bearing grudges. Golden Immortals refer to him as Immortal Monarch. The Crossing Business Envoy had already advanced to become a Golden Immortal a long time ago, but he had kept his capabilities hidden, not making them known to the world. Now that he has gained the confidence of the respected God Hidden, he has skyrocketed in status, going from the least experienced Golden Immortal to the Deputy Immortal Emperor in one leap. If it weren't for Immortal Emperor Zhongli following the Supreme to other worlds, if the ancestor hadn't gone to the underworld for our expedition, securing a bright future for us, I wouldn't have had the chance to be this Deputy Immortal Emperor. It's the Supreme's favor. The Crossing Business Immortal Monarch spoke humbly. He would never spill out all his words, leaving room for himself to retreat. The Crossing Business Immortal Monarch shuddered when he thought of the events of a year ago. He had come close to dying. While the respected God Hidden did indeed gain the treasured Zhongli, the fact that Zhongli was able to grow meant that his failure to report on the 9 provinces issue caused the respected God Hidden to lose control over the 10,000 realms. The respected God Hidden has a strong desire for control. He does not like such occurrences. Luckily, the Crossing Business Immortal Monarch was constantly paying attention to the observer civilization. He came to know about the existence of the Black Tide. From the Buddha's teachings, he inferred the concept of a parallel world. He boldly hypothesized that the respected God Hidden could use Zhongli to venture into other worlds and enhance his power. The Crossing Business Immortal Monarch was uncertain of whether such a thing could occur, but it was his only chance to survive, and he had to grasp it at all possible costs. Fortunately, he won the gamble. The respected God Hidden benefited greatly from this. Since then, the Crossing Business Immortal Monarch's career has soared, becoming the foremost among Golden Immortals. Although his cultivation was the weakest among the Golden Immortals, his power was unmatched among them. The Buddha and the Ru Saint were still fighting in the Deluo sky, the ancestor had gone to the underworld, Immortal Emperor Zhongli ventured into the parallel world. The immortal realm was his alone, which naturally made him the acting Immortal Emperor. Even his superior, manhwa immortal monarch, had to bow down and serve him. The respected God Hidden also promised him that after the establishment of the new world, he would put the demon race and the human race on an equal footing and let him be the demon emperor. The future was bright. Crossing business immortal monarch, there's something I don't understand. Since I have taken over the world you were in charge of, why did you emphasize not to touch the 9 provinces first? The Honggu messenger asked. The crossing business immortal monarch shook his head. The 9 provinces are my pain point, the first I want to destroy. But the 9 provinces are also where immortal Emperor Zhongli ascended, and when the Supreme proposed to destroy the 9 provinces to cut off immortal Emperor Yang's red dust ties, the eyes of immortal Emperor Zhong turned red. The Supreme feared that immortal Emperor Zhong would lose control and promised to be the last to destroy the 9 provinces. I see, thank you, crossing business immortal monarch for solving my doubts. The Honggu messenger stepped back. A portal to the parallel world appeared, and a great and holy breath emanated from the other end. We pay our respects to the Supreme, to the immortal Emperor. The group of immortals interrupted their celestial arts, and the crossing business immortal monarch came down from the throne to prostrate himself to the respected God Hidden and Zhongli. The crowd of immortals shouted, "Eternity," creating a grand scene that stirred one's heart. The crossing business envoy marveled secretly. Ever since the Supreme absorbed the first heavenly Tao's power, his aura has become increasingly elusive, unreachable, able to purify the soul, as if he was about to transcend all. The respected God Hidden has reached a height that he cannot comprehend. This height lacks theoretical references, lacks precedents, and is overwhelmingly powerful. Only such power can consecutively defeat the heavenly Tao of other worlds. The immortals were filled with pride, their heavenly Tao was the best in the world. Respected God Hidden led the idler, Zhongli, leisurely back to their original world. Looking at the preparations for the celebration, he nodded approvingly. This Duyi was more capable than the previous immortal emperor. I have destroyed 30% of the heavenly Tao, tripling my strength. Congratulations, respected one. The crowd of immortals bowed again. Respected God Hidden seated himself on the emperor's throne, granting Zhongli the seat next to him. Let the banquet begin. Inside the Golden K-Cloud Palace, the atmosphere was lively and harmonious. If one could ignore that these immortals held the power over hundreds of worlds in their hands, and that they were, in fact, the most powerful killers, then the grand banquet at this moment would match any mortal tale of the immortal realm. Relations are harmonious, unrestricted, carefree, free from the strife for power, beyond the 3 realms, not subject to the 5 elements. A heavenly immortal kneeled on the ground, reporting to respected God Hidden. Respected one, Lord Duyi has been worried that Jojo could become a variable, and he has constantly instructed me to observe the state of Jojo with heavenly vision and heavenly hearing. Just now, for some unknown reason, the momentum of Bai Hongtu, the acting human emperor of Jojo, surged and reached a new realm, echoing throughout Jojo. It's estimated to be akin to that of an Earth immortal. Respected God Hidden waved his hand dismissively. He is only an Earth immortal, there's no need to concern ourselves with him. Yes. Respected God Hidden could figure out with just a moment's thought that Bai Hongtu must have reached the Mahayana realm. So what? The Mahayana realm required time to mature. Now, there was no time for a newly reached Mahayana realm to grow. Even if he did not understand how to break through the Mahayana realm, it wouldn't matter. Once he created a new world, he would define the Transcendence Tribulation stage to be followed by the Mahayana realm, and then immortality. He'd see what waves this threshold could make. Upon hearing this news, Zhongli was pleased and felt happy for Bai Hongtu. Suddenly, the immortal realm trembled, the crowd of immortals swaying to and fro, even the emperor's throne shook. It's the immortal ascension ladder. Someone has used the immortal ascension ladder to connect to the immortal realm. That's impossible. The connection of the immortal ascension ladder to the immortal realm shouldn't cause such a strong reaction. I've read in ancient books that when the first immortal ascension ladder was created, it was unstable. When connected to the immortal realm, it caused the entire realm to tremble, just like what's happening now. Respected God Hidden slowly stood, staring in a particular direction. He sensed a person using the immortal ascension ladder to arrive at the immortal realm. This person walked with steady and forceful steps, each one seeming to topple the whole world. The tremors in the immortal realm were caused by this. A slight smile crossed respected God Hidden's face. There was no doubt about the strength of the newcomer. If it had been the former him, he would have studiously avoided such a formidable opponent. But now this was like walking into a trap. Thump, thump, the footsteps drew nearer to the Golden K-Cloud Palace. The footsteps were quiet, but they drowned out all other sounds, leaving the entire Golden K-Cloud Palace in silence, all waiting for the arrival of the person creating those footsteps. A figure cut through the immortal fog, standing in front of the golden K-Cloud Palace. This man was dressed in imperial robes, brazen and untamed, full of self-confidence. It was him that respected God Hidden had sensed. He looks just like Zhongli, quite interesting. Thump, thump. No sooner had respected God Hidden opened his mouth to speak, a different set of footsteps interrupted him. Respected God Hidden was taken by surprise. He had only sensed one person. Where did this second individual come from? A second figure cut through the immortal fog and arrived in front of the golden K-Cloud Palace. He looked almost identical to the first figure, but their auras were completely different. The newcomer was as ordinary as an average person who'd accidentally wandered into the immortal realm. The crowd of immortals had no idea who was stronger between Zhongli and the first emperor. Judging from their momentum, the first emperor was much stronger than Zhongli. Chapter 756. Both of you can go on together. All the immortals fixed their attention on the initial emperor as if facing a formidable adversary, perceiving him to possibly be the strongest enemy the immortal realm has ever known. Helpless, the might of the initial emperor was too strong, manifesting its presence at every moment. He was like the sun in the night sky, transforming night into day, overshadowing the stars. The untamed and contemptuous expression of the initial emperor resonated more with the immortals' conception of a strong entity. It ought to be so for the strong. On the contrary, Zhongli was looking left and right, expressing astonishment, seeming inexperienced, and curious about everything. The contrast between the two was too stark, and the brilliance of the initial emperor obscured Zhongli's presence. The initial emperor walked in front while Zhongli trailed behind, further illustrating their relative statuses. What the immortals did not know was that the initial emperor walked in front because he provided the ladder to immortality. In the initial emperor's world, after obtaining the ladder to immortality, he intended to immediately proceed to the immortal realm to redress past humiliation. However, the immortal realm came to him directly, no longer requiring the ladder to immortality. This resulted in the initial emperor never having the opportunity to use the ladder to immortality. Until now. But respected God Hidden directly ignored the initial emperor, fixating sternly on Zhongli. Regardless of how powerful the initial emperor was, it could see that it was stronger than a standard heavenly Tao but still within a manageable range. But Zhongli was different. Undetectable, it could see Zhongli standing there, but closing its eyes to perceive, there was nothing there. It felt that Zhongli was like an ineffable existence that had transcended all living beings and all principles. How was it possible? Respected God Hidden could not imagine how the heavenly Tao of Zhongli's world faced such a formidable adversary. You must come from world number 1320. Respected God Hidden recalled that a heavenly Tao requested aid, saying that an initial emperor Zhongli had emerged, terrifyingly powerful, forcing it into a distressing situation. It must be this man exuding imperial power. You may refer to me as the initial emperor. The initial emperor slightly lifted his chin, disdainfully overlooking respected God Hidden. Then you are from world number 2400, the heavenly Tao of that world has never spoken from the creation of the system to the present, it must have been killed by you. Respected God Hidden could quite easily deduce the truth. It appears that there is still disparity between the Zhongli. Respected God Hidden had been to countless parallel worlds, seen innumerable Zhongli, all of them primordial limitless immortals, not as powerful as immortal Zhongli. It had thought that the initial emperor Zhongli, who had forced the heavenly Tao of world number 1320 to flee, was the most powerful. Surprisingly, there was a Zhongli who was even stronger than initial emperor Zhongli. However, it does not mean we cannot fight. Respected God Hidden displayed a confident smile on its face. Though the other party was indeed powerful, it was not to be underestimated, either. After its power was tripled, it had new understandings, its true strength was far from this. So what if it couldn't see through the other party? Could the other party see through it? In a battle where the opponent cannot be discerned, what is tested is one's foundation. Could any living being's foundation match its own? Respected God Hidden raised its hand, and extended its index finger. Just such a simple action exuded a subtle and substantial charm, a charming and intoxicating Tao rhythm. Every action of respected God Hidden demonstrated its unique grandeur. Pointing at Zhongli and then at the initial emperor, it said, "Both of you, come at me together." Zhongli wanted to accept the challenge, but was stopped by the initial emperor. Since I started my path, I have never really won against a heavenly Tao. It has always been you who stole the show, this time, it should be me. Zhongli thought it over, and realized that was indeed the case. The heavenly Tao did not want to have a protracted battle with the initial emperor last time. The time before, two heavenly Taos teamed up and defeated the initial emperor. Calculating in this manner, the initial emperor had not truly won against the heavenly Tao. But are you up to it? Zhongli saw that the other party was 3 times stronger than a normal heavenly Tao. If the other party had trump cards, it would be even stronger. The initial emperor confidently smiled. There is no need for you to worry about me. Even if I don't use the Sky Desolate Halberd, I am not afraid of a mere heavenly Tao. The Sky Desolate Halberd was left in the original world. Zhongli, unable to speak, used his divine sense to desperately call for help. Help me, brothers, I am under control. Upon seeing Zhongli and the initial emperor, it was as if he had seen the first light of hope. In his dreams, he had been brutally beaten by these two. He knew they were extremely powerful, with deep conviction, far from what he could achieve. How are you still alive? The initial emperor sneered. Have you seen the current state of Kyushu? It hasn't changed a bit in 500 years. How could you dare occupy the position of the human emperor? Once I behead this damned respected god hidden, I'll deal with you. The initial emperor took a bold stride, exuding an intimidating aura, as if he was followed by a blood-soaked army, causing a palpable murderous intent. It caused even the strongest of the Golden Immortal, Lord Mingwo, to struggle for breath. Daring to challenge the heavens alone, how arrogant. The respected god hidden descended from the throne, as if a high and mighty deity stepped down from the altar, ready to deal divine punishment to the ignorant and arrogant creatures. The clash of two auras exploded silently within Golden K Cloud Palace, aiming for the heavens and forcing a gap in the barrier. The Buddha and Confucius simultaneously halted their fight, observing what happened beneath through the broken gap. Let's stop, the respected god hidden has met his match. Let's rest, one of them proposed. Can there still be living beings daring to resist the respected god hidden after he's established his dominance? The initial emperor readied himself, treating his body as a weapon, clutching the imperial rune. The Great Freedom Heavenly King Fist was about to smash the respected god hidden. Great Freedom Heavenly King Fist. The rune gleamed brightly, reflecting the initial emperor's life, free and unbound. It was in this freedom that he created the Great Freedom Heavenly King Fist. The force of his fist was like a prison, beheading all those who wouldn't submit to him. If a man wouldn't submit, kill. If an immortal wouldn't submit, kill. If heaven wouldn't submit, kill. The initial emperor's fists were fearless, aimed only at killing the enemy before him, regardless if they were an immortal or heaven itself. A self-created rune. Even the most ancient immortals would change color at seeing the rune used by the initial emperor. Taking a different path and creating something unique, how much talent would that require? Upon this thought, the ancient immortal glanced over at Zhongli. It seemed that he hadn't heard of Zhongli creating anything of his own, using only what was handed down from previous generations. A youth, ignorant and fearless. The respected god hidden responded with a cold demeanor, countering with a punch. As their fists collided, the speed almost resembling light, creating a black hole with every punch. Just as the micro-black holes were formed, they were shattered by the subsequent punches. The scale of their battle was enormous, with the sound of their clashing fists echoing through the 33 layers of heaven, causing the mobile immortal realm to stop moving amidst constant tremors. The usually firm immortal realm was teetering, seemingly on the verge of collapse. The crowd glanced up at the two standing at the end of the road, trembling with fear, not daring to take a breath. 3 heads and 6 arms. The initial emperor performed his technique, 3 heads and 6 arms, clashing one pair of hands against the respected god hidden and the other 2 pairs swiftly casting the imperial rune, making use of the initial emperor's own Taoist arts. The initial emperor's Taoist arts gave off a strong vibe of dominance. Nobody could fathom the depth of the respected god hidden's understanding of Taoist arts. He met blow with blow, neutralizing the initial emperor's attacks and responding with an even harder and stronger stand. For those who disrespect heaven, behead. A divine blade descended, slashing open the initial emperor's chest. Blood gushed into the air and the initial emperor fell at Zhongli's feet. Zhongli nudged the initial emperor with his toe, kindly asking, "Are you okay?" "No need to worry about me." The initial emperor laughed heartily, sprang up like a carp leaping up a waterfall, flying back into the sky to continue the fight. Chapter 757, Swap. The respected god hidden gazed at the virile and vigorous emperor, his eyebrows furrowing slightly. He had originally intended to reserve his strength to deal with another Zhongli, but dealing with the emperor seemed trickier than expected. He would need to use his true power. "Mortal, you possess some skills. But you lack reverence for heaven and thus, must be punished." The respected god hidden looked at the emperor indifferently. As he spoke the words, punishment, a purple thunder descended from the heavens, transforming into 2 heavenly weapons which ended up in his hands. The emperor had just been slashed through the chest by these heavenly weapons and was severely injured. Purple lightning arcs leapt around the emperor's chest, preventing him from healing himself. Thunder is the authority of heaven, and these two purple thunder heavenly Tao swords are the ultimate embodiment of thunder. They are unmatched by any heavenly tribulation. Raising one of the heavenly weapons high above his head, the respected God Hidden looked down at the emperor with an air of superiority, devoid of any emotion. As the heavenly weapon descended, with its scorching light and dazzling thunder, it was poised to cleave the emperor in two. The emperor, using his own blood as a guide, etched an imperial symbol in his palms. Clasping his hands together, he managed to seize the heavenly sword. The sword began to corrode the emperor's imperial symbol, producing a sizzling sound. Seeing the situation worsening, the emperor dodged the attack by tilting his head. The heavenly sword forcefully crashed onto the emperor's shoulder, causing excruciating pain. The sword, having tasted the emperor's blood, began to emit a faint purple glow, appearing more fearsome and ferocious. Countless heavenly Tao have perished under this sword, but this is the first time I have slain a being of the heavenly Tao realm with it. The respected God Hidden landed a kick on the emperor's stomach, sending him flying. Taking advantage of the situation, he pursued the attack, the indestructible heavenly sword leaving the emperor covered in bloody wounds. Respected God Hidden let the heavenly sword go, it transformed back into purple thunder, striking the emperor once again. 5 Elements Creation Tribulation. The origins of the 5 elements gold, wood, water, fire, earth, entered the emperor's abdomen. The purple thunder intensified the activities of these elemental origins, causing them to clash with each other, ceaselessly annihilating and regenerating, much like the primitive formation of the world. The internal collision and creation in the emperor's abdomen produced unimaginable energy and heat. Enduring the pain, the emperor retaliated with an imperial punch at the respected God Hidden. The respected God Hidden released his strength completely, forcing the emperor to retreat repeatedly. The emperor, who usually paid great attention to his demeanor, now found himself in tattered robes, looking like a beggar. The emperor fought ferociously, forgetting the pain. Is that all your strength? It doesn't hurt at all. You're far from defeating me. One punch after another, each one heavier than the last, the respected God Hidden's fist was like a heavenly punishment. Each landed blow either broke the emperor's bones or made him spit out blood. As for pure power, the emperor was no match for the respected God Hidden. The respected God Hidden stretched out his right hand, slowly curling his fingers inward. If anyone could have a panoramic view of the 10,000 realms, they would notice shadows gradually appearing on the surface of the realms, the shadow images of the 10,000 realms. The shadow images of the 10,000 realms rapidly converged at an unimaginable speed. By the time the respected God Hidden clenched his right hand into a fist, the shadow series were also clenched. This was a punch that held the power of the 10,000 realms. The respected God Hidden brutally slammed his fist into the emperor's chest. With a twist of his wrist, the emperor swirled and flew off like a spinning top. The respected God Hidden teleported himself and appeared above the emperor. Rules of space, time, matter energy transformation, life-death reincarnation, all these rules transformed into offensive moves, hammering at the emperor relentlessly, leaving no part of his body unscathed. Seeing this, the immortals felt an inexplicable thrill. This was the invincible heavenly Tao. With such power, they could easily sweep across all parallel worlds. Who could be their match? A thump echoed. Once again, the emperor fell from the sky, landing in front of Zhongli. Zhongli squatted down and jabbed the emperor. Are you okay? The emperor laughed confidently. Can't beat him. His words were firm and resounding. Zhongli simply replied. Then it's my turn. Haha, as I have said before, you two should have teamed up. Your arrogance has destined your failure, the respected God Hidden casually said, while recalling his heavenly swords. The authority to punish living beings transformed into a real object, stronger than any weapon. With the heavenly sword in his hand, and the wind roaring and thunder rolling around him, the respected God Hidden looked like an omnipotent god, invincible in the mortal world. Those who disrespect heaven, will be punished by heaven. He raised his 2 heavenly swords, ready to slice Zhongli in half. When he faced the emperor, the respected God Hidden only raised 1 sword. Now he raised 2, a clear indication of the seriousness with which he regarded Zhongli. Die. Just as the respected God Hidden was about to strike, he saw Zhongli suddenly appear before him, snatching the 2 heavenly swords and stabbing them into his chest. Golden blood dripped down. This was the celestial blood of the strongest heavenly Tao. A drop of it could transform a mortal, clearing all meridians, mastering the arts of immortality, and ascending to the immortal realm, creating a legend. The respected god hidden had already lost an unknown amount of celestial blood. Unfortunately, under Zhang Li's Mahayana realm suppression, the moment the celestial blood left his body, it was crushed, no longer holding any sanctity. Zhang Li pulled out the two heavenly swords and began stabbing them repeatedly into the respected god hidden's chest. As he wielded the extremely handy weapon, Zhang Li praised, "These are indeed the ultimate embodiments of thunder, and they indeed work well." After that, Zhang Li pulled out the two heavenly swords from the respected god hidden's chest and tossed them aside. The swords, containing boundless power, directly pierced through the immortal realm and fell into the void. Although, a fist is more satisfying. Zhang Li punched respected god hidden's face, shattering his head. The immortals below gasped in shock, sensing that something bad was about to happen. Until now, they had never seen the respected god hidden suffer such a severe injury. The respected god hidden healed his wounds, growing a new head. He stretched out both hands. "Heavenly swords, come." The swords appeared in his hands again. "You're gonna pay for this." Both swords struck Zhang Li solidly but didn't leave a trace of injury. Instead, the respected god hidden's hands were trembling from the aftermath of the strike. The respected god hidden's eyes widened in disbelief, wondering if he was hallucinating. His full force strike had absolutely no effect. Courtesy dictates reciprocity, take my punch. The respected god hidden hastily held up the heavenly sword to block his chest. The two swords overlapped each other and could probably withstand any attack. Snap! With a swing of Zhang Li's fist, the heavenly swords broke in two halves. The power of his fist remained undiminished and landed heavily on the respected god hidden, sending a chill down his spine. The respected god hidden spat out large amounts of blood. His previous indifference was replaced by a faint fear brewing deep in his eyes. This was an emotion he had never felt before. "Why don't the two of you come at me together?" Zhang Li casually suggested, picking at his ear. "You join the fight too." The respected god hidden took control of the idol. Zhang Li got him on his feet and had him stand by his side. He could multitask, controlling the idol person with one hand and fighting with the other. Unable to control his own body, while attacking Zhang Li, the idol person cried out to Zhang Li for help, "Brother Human Emperor, I." Without uttering a word, Zhang Li picked up the idol person by the ankle and swung him at the respected god hidden, causing him to be somewhat disoriented. This weapon is quite handy too. Chapter 758, One-Sided Battle. For the past year, all Idleman wished for was to break free from control and fight the respected god hidden. Now, his wish has been granted. Not only did he get to fight the respected god hidden, but he also had the upper hand. Normally, having dreams come true should be something to cheer about, but Idleman did not feel elated. Below, a crowd of immortals watched as Zhang Li swung Idleman in his hand, locked in combat with respected god hidden, leaving them in awe. They had never seen this style of battle before. Idleman's body was that of the heavenly Tao caliber, exceptionally resilient, and capable of rapid self-healing. If he was not a person, he would be the perfect weapon. Neither the Tao treasure of the Tao ancestors nor the first light of the immortal emperor could compare to Idleman. Swinging Idleman as though he was a giant mallet, Zhang Li hammered relentless sly against the respected god hidden, much like hammering a nail. Each strike caused Idleman to groan in pain, leaving the respected god hidden dazed and disoriented. "Human Emperor, Idleman conveyed his thoughts through divine sense. "Don't bother saying it, I understand," Zhang Li perceptively responded, continuing to swing Idleman with increasing smoothness. Infuriated, respected god hidden grimaced, his flawless face twisting into a gruesome expression. Supreme Imperial Formation, countless pillars of light, adorned with a destructive allure, soared into the sky, each finding their rightful place like living beings, forming an ancient and dazzling formation. The formation seemed to hold an ultimate secret. Once comprehended, it could make one invincible. The reasoning scholar and the Buddha had never seen such a formation before. By combining their efforts to deduce its mechanisms, they quickly understood its power. This is a formation powerful enough to stir a furious storm in the river of time, disturbing the past, present, and future. In an instant, Zhang Li discerned the location of the formation's central point, the most destructive spot. Should anyone approach it, even the greatest inherent immortal would be incinerated into nothingness. Idleman Vajra Pestle. Uttering the name of the attack he had just invented, Zhang Li directed Idleman towards the destructive beams of light. He used Idleman to pierce the formation's central point, thereby destroying the barrier in one fell swoop. The reasoning scholar and the Buddha looked at each other with peculiar expressions, finding that Zhang Li's movements were akin to mopping a pool. Idleman tail sweep. Zhang Li, with an air of sweeping through an army, smashed the respected god hidden away. Zhang Li's strength was colossal, and Idleman was sturdy. Their seamless collaboration left the respected god hidden powerless against their attacks. Zhang Li's moves were incredibly forceful. After a series of combined attacks, not only was the respected god hidden severely injured, but several of Idleman's bones were shattered as well. Using injury to create injury, the respected god hidden finally found a chance to counterattack, releasing a grey fog from his body that filled the entire immortal realm, also reaching the Daluo heaven. As the mist spread, his body began to shrivel until his whole seemed to turn into fog. The fog reshaped, transformed into the Chaos Sea, and flooded the pure sky. This is the Chaos Sea. It is said to be the first tangible entity created by Taichu, from where all the 10,000 realms were derived. The reasoning scholar exclaimed in shock. The strength of the respected god hidden truly ran deep. This was only a third of Heavenly Tao's power. If it were 10 times stronger, how terrifying would that be? The water from the sea poured into Zhang Li's mouth and nose, igniting singular explosions and causing worlds to collide in reverse reality. Chaos ensued as big stars plummeted, various acts of creation and destruction unfolded all within Zhang Li's body. Zhang Li remained unaffected, as if nothing out of the ordinary was happening inside him. He spun Idleman around, stirring the Chaos Sea. The Chaos Sea moved in accordance with Zhang Li's will, as if it was his very own. Go, Zhang Li commanded lightly, casually hurling Idleman out. Idleman hurtled into a droplet hidden within the Chaos Sea, the core of the Chaos Sea, which was respected god hidden's real body. Splat! The Chaos Sea contracted rapidly, returning to the respected god hidden's body, causing him to spurt a mouthful of golden-colored blood that swirled around the area in the pure sky. Luckily, the wound wasn't suffered in vain. Respected god hidden had finally regained control of Idleman. With the Idleman in his control, he could be at his strongest state. Idleman held an immortal sword in his hand, a matchless immortal sword forged by the respected god hidden from numerous precious immortal gold. Respected god hidden and Idleman attacked together, engaging in intense combat with Zhang Li. The resulting storm was terrifying, sweeping across the immortal realm, blowing the crowd of immortals away. The only ones who could stay on the battlefield were the initial emperor, the reasoning scholar, and the Buddha. Respected god hidden used all of his trump cards, all prohibitions and secret techniques were utilized. He was intent on defeating Zhang Li. He felt absurd. If he didn't exert all of his effort now, he would never have the chance again. Killing intent surged in the respected god hidden, falling from his heavenly stature to a human's stance, losing his serene composure. Idleman also moved, demonstrating exceptional finesse, interpreting the grand divine power in an extraordinary manner, subtly and ingeniously making it a part of the rules. Boom! Respected god hidden fought Zhang Li using the power of the rules, with the rule of time taking the three of them into the river of time. The river of time has become a battlefield. Emperor Shun of this world had anticipated such a sight and had taken refuge earlier in ancient times, fearing being caught in the crossfire. The three eternal figures were engaged in a fierce battle within the river of time. The aftermath of the battle rippled towards the distant past from the river of time, breaking out at some time point in the past, becoming part of history. The brilliant lights produced by the battle illuminated the void at different time points, being worshipped as miracles by the ancients. The sound of the fierce battle reached the past, turning into an obscure rhythm that no one could comprehend. The immortals who had managed to stabilize suddenly remembered that they had heard an incomprehensible sound tens of thousands of years ago, or even hundreds of thousands of years ago, a sound that seemed like that of a battle or comprehension of the Tao, containing endless secrets. This sound reached their ears once again. They finally realized that it was the sound of the battle between respected god hidden and his enemy, transmitted over the span of time. The three battled intensely, a brutally fierce fight. To put it accurately, it was Zhang Li pounding respected god hidden and Idleman. Zhang Li moved with the might of a tiger and the agility of a dragon, his moves as expansive as the sky above. He held respected god hidden's head in one hand and Idleman's head in the other, pounding the two together. Bang! The river of time cracked open, and Zhang Li leapt back into the immortal realm, leaving respected god hidden and Idleman to fall through the opening. Zhang Li looked relaxed and unfazed, entirely unlike someone who had just been in a fierce battle. A small white figure emerged from respected god hidden's soul stage and hopped onto Zhang Li's brow. Zhang Li felt changes in his soul stage. Respected god hidden had appeared within the depths of his soul stage, attempting to seize his body. When emperors attempted to possess ordinary people, it indicated one thing, their admission that they were inferior to Zhang Li. Respected god hidden realized that the opponent in front of him was invincible. No matter how strong he became, even if he amplified his power tenfold using the heavenly Tao, all efforts would be in vain. The only way to achieve victory was through possession. Ordinary people tend to focus more on their external appearances and neglect their internals, such as paying more attention to their muscles rather than their internal organs, or focusing more on their internal organs than on their soul stage. This was his advantage. This soul stage. Respected God Hidden's pupils contracted. Was this actually a soul stage? It was clearly an entire world, one which was much larger than the 10,000 realms. Suddenly, a shadow loomed over him. He looked up only to see a colossal fist barreling towards him. Unable to evade it, he was directly smashed into the ground. It was Zhang Li's fist. Get out, Zhang Li commanded coolly. Chapter 759. Zhang Li discarded the respected God Hidden like a piece of garbage, once more keeping his divine platform clean and tidy. Returning to his original form, the respected God Hidden gasped for breath like he had experienced a true death, unsettled and frightened. After 2 deep breaths, the respected God Hidden made a certain resolution. Words representing extreme horror and insanity slipped from his mouth. Ignite the furnace, alchemy. Supreme return to the origin. He planned to transform the entire immortal realm into his own power, making a desperate attempt. Give up. Zhang Li slowly approached the respected God Hidden, power continually gathering in his hand. Eventually, the power condensed into a seal. The first seal. This seal, although simple, represented Zhang Li's enlightenment in Tao. Its mere initiation was enough to make the emperor admit defeat, inferior and humiliated. Now, Zhang Li finally planned to release a complete first seal. The ancient, unchanging symbol of the great Luo Tian cracked, revealing a simple symbol that encompassed all things. This symbol underwent a process from simplicity to complexity and then back to simplicity, revealing the force of supreme goodness after purging all its superficiality. An overwhelming pressure bore down on the respected God Hidden, forcing him to abandon his human form and transform into his original heavenly Tao form. The original form of the heavenly Tao was vague and traceless, an existence that cultivators could never find in their entire lives. However, under the first seal, the original form of the heavenly Tao couldn't escape and was forced to reveal itself. The heavenly Tao initially existed in a form that humans couldn't understand. Now, what was revealed was not its original form, but a form understandable to the human world. The original form of the heavenly Tao was blue, carrying the breath of life, the end of cultivation, the vicissitudes of time. Different people had different feelings when observing the heavenly Tao. If observed carefully, one would find that the original form of the heavenly Tao was somewhat similar to the terrestrial veins, but it was stronger and richer, the ultimate form of terrestrial veins. The first seal fell, striking the original form of the heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao constantly twisted, attempting to revive itself with its vibrant life force but to no avail. The first seal deprived the heavenly Tao of its regenerative ability, and stripped it of all its power. Slowly, the heavenly Tao degenerated into its embryonic form. This embryonic form collapsed, transformed into the will of all beings, and dissipated, leaving nothing behind. The heavenly Tao was inherently a product of the will of all beings, and now it had merely returned to its most original form, nothingness. The scholar saint and the Buddha exchanged a glance, their eyes filled with unprecedented horror. What had just happened? The invincible heavenly Tao had disappeared, and the future had become unknown. What was the unconventional move that Zhang Li had made? They couldn't understand it at all. They even doubted that even if the Tao combined with the resurrection could hardly be understood. This subverted their previous knowledge. The battle ended, and the emperor had also returned to his peak state. Looking at the group of immortals who cowered like quails, he showed a cruel smile. The crowd of immortals scattered and fled, exhausting their cultivation to escape to the corners of the 10,000 realms. In this year, only Jojo was an exception and did not suffer from the attack of immortals. The situation of other worlds was extremely bad under the eradication plan of the immortal realm. You want to run away in front of me? The emperor gave a cold smile. 2 hands, large beyond imagination, squeezed the pure sky into a prison cage from which there was no escape. The carnage began. Blood flowed like a river in the immortal realm. The executioners who had destroyed the 10,000 realms suffered all kinds of punishments in the hand of the emperor, worse than death. Screams and cries echoed around. Even compared to hell, the emperor's methods were child's play. Immortal corpses floated on the sea of blood, showing expressions of relief. It was hard to imagine what they had gone through in their lives. Crowds of immortals died one after another. The emperor deliberately left the immortal Duyi for the last, allowing him to see with his own eyes the punishment his colleagues received, waiting for the long prelude to the trial. Du Yi, the one I want to find the most when I came to the immortal realm is you. The emperor grabbed Du Yi's neck with his hand, his eyes cold and cruel. As for the anger hidden in the deepest part, no one could see it. Du Yi thought it was about Jojo, and the emperor was seeking revenge on him. Zhang Li also came over, wanting to witness Du Yi's death personally. Du Yi had destroyed his original home. Zhang Li admitted that the emperor was better at killing and punishing. When Du Yi died, there was no human shape left, like a squirming worm, crawling forward. He had only one thought, and that was to escape from the grip of the emperor. Then the emperor crushed him under his foot, like stepping on a bug. Underworld. Despite being prepared, seeing the large number of immortals, Empress Hu too couldn't help but gasp in surprise. Why can't they be killed in batches, giving the underworld a chance to breathe? Why do they have to be killed all at once? Yama, it's up to you now. Empress Hu too came to the hall of Yama and psyched up Yama. After this matter is over, I will give you a promotion and raise, making you the second in command of the underworld. Can we change it to a holiday instead? No, Yama wanted to use the Book of Life and Death to see if Empress Hu too's sin was about to be cleared. You can't exploit it just because you can't kill the dead. Yama looked at the lineup of immortals, randomly picked one and scanned him with the Book of Life and Death. The Book of Life and Death automatically became thicker, as it wasn't enough to record the mortal's sin. Empress Hu too was also not idle. The dead immortals were at a heavenly immortal level, and needed her, a Hunyuan Wuji immortal, to control the scene. However, after controlling the scene for a while, she found that this group of heavenly immortals was rather obedient. Weird, they look as if they have just survived a catastrophe, as if they were relieved that they were finally dead. The scholar saint and the Buddha came down from the great Luo heaven. The entire immortal realm was now broken and tattered. Great Luo heaven was no exception, just like a cave, windy and not a place to stay. After a long discussion, Zhang Li discovered the scholar saint and the Buddha, who opposed the methods of the respected god hidden. However, they had no better alternative. They could only pretend to fight, buying time and waiting for the opportunity. They originally thought that once the respected god hidden got the idle man, the opportunity approached to disappear. They didn't expect that after the respected god hidden became extraordinarily strong, Zhang Li arrived. So there is a second way to resist the rules of destruction. Both were very excited when they heard about the orderly method. Indeed, there wouldn't only be one method. The two must not be anxious. There is a method, but time is pressing. I am not sure when the black tide will arrive in your world. Zhang Li sincerely said, our plan is to use Jojo as a base and extend our helping hands, reach out to all worlds. For this, I hope the two could stay in Jojo to provide help and build order in the 10,000 realms. The progenitor will also help. The scholar saint and Buddha agreed in unison. With the 3 Hunyuan Wuji immortals stationed at Jojo, this power is equivalent to half of the immortal realm, which is terrifying. Zhang Li was assured that with the help of these 3, the speed of establishing order will not be too slow. Zhang Li was relieved that the scholar saint and the Buddha were still alive. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for Jojo to establish order. With the affairs of the immortal realm settled, Zhang Li and the emperor turned their heads at the same time and looked at the idle man. It was time to deal with him. Chapter 760. Just because you are in the Mahayana realm. Brothers, why are you looking at me like that? The idle man had finally obtained his freedom and wanted to show gratitude to Zhang Li for saving his life. However, the glare from Zhang Li and the first emperor made him feel uneasy. The first emperor quickly approached in just 3 strides, kicked him in the stomach, sending him sprawling on the ground. Then he grabbed his collar and flipped him over again, sending him back to the ground. Useless waste, said the first emperor coldly. The idle man was stunned, unsure why the first emperor was so infuriated. In their dreams, although the first emperor was a bit arrogant while teaching him how to fight, he was never this furious. Zhang Li crouched down, silently watching the idle man. His calm gaze was all the more frightening. Before this, we visited Jojo, 9 states. The Jojo of today is not much different from 500 years ago, except that those floundering in the weak are now replaced with your people. The city of Sleeping Dragon in Great Way, known for producing silk, is now controlled by your maid, Meng Yu. The Meng family has quickly risen from an ordinary small family to the largest one in the Sleeping Dragon city. Even the city lord pays tribute to them, announcing that the Meng family is now the leader. Essential cultivation supplies are monopolized by the Meng family and a few other families. Ordinary people struggle to survive, let alone make a better life for themselves. In addition, there are rampant street horses, which the common people dare to condemn but are unable to speak out. I didn't know about this, said the idle man, evidently flustered. He genuinely had no clue such incidents had transpired. In his mind, Meng Yu was kind-hearted, gentle, considerate of others, and always ready to lend a listening ear. She would patiently analyze situations and provide advice when he came across dilemmas. Of course you didn't. If you had known, you wouldn't be just lying here now. The first task for both the first emperor and me, after our belated incorporation into the system, was to return to the Zhang family and defeat Zhang Yixing. For that, we both visited our family after 500 years. In Qingcheng, we met Zhang Yixing, who had indulged in practicing the demonic arts, and witnessed the Zhang family taking control of Qingcheng. Do you know the difference between the Meng family and the Zhang family? The idle man shook his head. The coldness in Zhang Li's gaze intensified. The Zhang family only dares to cause trouble in secret. Despite their control over Qingcheng, they carried out benevolent acts. The people of Qingcheng even thank them for their contributions. That's because they understand they are only bluffing under my name. While I strive to change Zhou for a harmonious future, they must maintain the appearance of being considerate of the people to stay in sync with me. Meanwhile, the Meng family is also bluffing under your name. As a result, the only rules they obey are not killing or kidnapping women. Beyond that, they can do as they please. On the front of resisting the heavenly demon and protecting Zhou, you've done a reasonably good job. The reason why he didn't deem it as more than just satisfactory was because the idle man didn't consider fortifying Zhou with a protective array to minimize casualties. Isn't resisting the heavenly demon the core duty of the human emperor? The idle man tried to justify himself, thinking he had met this responsibility. Zhang Li sneered, his gaze panning onto the idle man's flustered eyes. Do you think the only responsibility of the human emperor is to resist the heavenly demon? If you did, why would you have appointed Bai Hongtu as the acting human emperor? The idle man stared at Zhang Li. He felt that Zhang Li knew him inside out, exposing his hidden thoughts and plans one by one. He didn't want to listen any further, but it was beyond his control. You knew well that there were many responsibilities of a human emperor that you did not want to bear, yet you didn't want to give up your fancy title. That's why you chose to appoint an acting emperor. All responsibilities were shoved onto Bai Hongtu, while you and your harem continued your carefree life. Do you think all good things should be yours to enjoy, while others endure the suffering? And, the women in your harem, I won't discuss how they ended up there. For the tasks that the system does not recommend abandoning, you didn't abandon a single one. Do you remember what you said when we first met? You said that you loved all of them. If you think what you're doing is okay, why don't you try putting yourself in their shoes? What if a woman from your harem loved multiple men, including you? How would you feel? Doesn't feel good, does it? You're doing the system tasks and earning the affection of the women without considering what they feel, just going with the flow. Do you dare to tell them that your relationship with them originated from system tasks? A waste drifting along with the current, the first emperor evaluated coldly. The idle man, as if ignited by the first emperor's words, retorted unexpectedly, yes, I am drifting along with the current, I am a waste. Have you too forgotten the experiences from our past life? The persistence in our hearts for justice, only to be framed and imprisoned by higher authorities, and eventually cleared under the guise of mental illness to die alone in a madhouse. Is it meaningful to live like that? The idle man only remembered being mentally ill, but not the reason behind his condition. After barely managing to live another life, do I have to repeat the same mistakes and die an inexplicable death like in my past life? When I defeated Zhang Yixing, I had made up my mind, I will live for myself in this life. Also, think about this. If you were to suddenly travel to another world with no idea about your surroundings and a system appears out of the blue, saying that you could be the strongest if you did as it instructed, would you do it? What does it matter to me what Zhou is like? Why should I bother to change it? Because you are in the Mahayana realm. What? The idle man did not understand what Zhang Li meant. Zhang Li continued, the key to reaching the Mahayana realm is to believe that energy is not conserved. The reason the three of us stubbornly believe that energy is not conserved is that we believe the world is fair and just, and resources can be distributed endlessly. However, all three of us forgot why we believe energy is not conserved. You remembered that energy is not conserved, but forgot you are also someone who, rather than forcing oneself into mental illness, believes the world can be fair and just. The idle man was dumbstruck. He had not anticipated that his long-held belief in the non-conservation of energy had stemmed from this reason. You have reached the Mahayana realm but never thought about changing this world where the strong prey on the weak. The law of the jungle is natural law. It is natural for me to accept it. Why should I change it? This is to follow the course of nature, to follow the Tao of nature. The idle man tried to find a logical reason for his actions. Upon hearing this, the first emperor stepped on the idle man's chest. You follow the law of the jungle, I won't object to that. But the destruction of rules is also a part of natural law. Are you going to adhere to that as well? The idle man was at a loss for words. He knew that the world was facing a crisis of destruction. Under the rule of destruction, all realms would perish, and he would be no exception. Is Alliance Master where I am? He wondered if he could negotiate to change the additional workload into extra outside work.